innovation and design thinking within IIM Kashipur, it also creates value for external stakeholders through structured institutional collaboration. A defining example of the MOU between GIC IIM Kashipur and the designated Adult Tinkering Lab of the Gurukul Foundation School, Kashipur has established in alignment with the Adult Innovation Mission norms organized by NITI Aayog. Through this collaboration, the center contributes to early stage innovation, problem solving, and entrepreneurial thinking among various students, strengthening the national innovation pipeline. In terms of measurable impact, the Design and Innovation Center has trained over 1,900 students in the domain of design thinking, providing financial assistance to help students convert ideas into tangible solutions. Successfully developed 3 advanced prototypes, including a flagship prototype valued at 6.5 lakhs, which won the National TUP Reliance competition. AVINYA is a flagship platform of the larger mission, bringing together design, thinking, artificial intelligence, and sustainability along with business strategy into one integrated conversation. These milestones reflect how important innovation is a part of the culture here at IIM Kashipur. So, at IIM Kashipur, innovation is not viewed merely as a technological pursuit. Rather, it is a managerial mindset, a way of solving problems that are complex, uncertain, and interconnected. So, AVINYA 2.0 is our effort to bring this mindset alive through conversations with leaders who have walked the path from idea to execution at scale. Today's conclave is especially meaningful because of the diversity of the participants that are present here. We are joined by MBA first year students of IIM Kashipur, undergraduate college students, and young innovators from Atal Tinkering Lab, the Gurukul Foundation, Kashipur, whom TIC IIM Kashipur shares a formal memorandum of understanding. This collaboration reflects our belief that innovation can begin at any age, but impact is created when ideas are designed thoughtfully and executed responsibly. So, today's theme, from idea to impact, designing, building, and scaling sustainable products in the age of artificial intelligence, is designed to resonate with learners at every stage, from early curiosity to career defining decisions. Now, to formally inaugurate AVINYA 2.0, we invite our respected Dean Development Sir, Kunal Kamboli Sir, our respected faculties, and our distinguished panelists to the stage for lighting of the lamp, symbolizing knowledge, responsibility, and purposeful innovation. We have one. We would like to invite Professor Gargi Rawat to please come here and deliver a welcome address to all our guests. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Respected Dean Professor Ganguly, our distinguished panelists, our Dean DIC, I can see Professor Momoria, Professor Ratikant, Ms. Miller from, and Ms. Minimalist Ritika from DGFS Kashipur. The students here from different backgrounds, right from, I can see students from Gurukul School, from our IIM Kashipur team, the DIC team who has made this happen. I welcome you all to AVINYA 2.0. The theme of this year is From Idea to Impact, Designing, Building, and Scaling Sustainable Products in the Age of AI. So, in a world of AI, where AI is accelerating everything that we are building, everything that we know, and it is changing what we know and how we know, this theme comes at a very urgent moment where it will help us innovate responsibly, sustainably, and with real human impact. Today, we have a set of distinguished panelists. Mr. Anshuman Mansingh, Customer Engineer Lead, Asia Pacific Google Gemini AI. Mr. Product Manager Microsoft. Mr. Utsav Chakrabarti, Director Data Science Visa. Professor Saptarishi Kole, Assistant Professor in the Department of Agricultural Environment, Department of Design at Roorkee. And we have the professors with you. So, what is making this conclave even special is our participants. We have participants from IIM Kashipur, the DIC team, as well as our students. Plus, we have a very different set of participants from school, the youngest mind that is possible in IIM Kashipur, and graduate and undergraduate students from various colleges in Kashipur. So I encourage you all to make the best of this moment. A special thanks to our DIC team, the DIC cell, as well as Sanjay ji, to make all of this happen. And I wish you all the best on this Saturday chilly morning. You have, doing the best and make the best out of this. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for setting the foundation for today's discussion and highlighting the role of design-led innovation here at IIM Kashipur. We would now like to invite Professor Kunal Ganguly, Dean Development, IIM Kashipur, to share his insights on innovation, sustainability, and institutional vision.
Good morning everyone. A nice bright day, but it's brighter inside because of the luminaries present today in this session. And with all youngsters over here, it's a sense of inspiration for all of you that, we were discussing before coming to this session, and I was considering me on and out because so young and such a young age they have reached to that zenith. That's a sort of inspiration for you guys. You can also reach to that excel. You can excel in that career if you follow. Get inspired by today's discussion. Get the insights from this interesting discussion which is going to happen, and that too in the area of AI and sustainability. There are many questions related to AI, related to sustainability, which is bothering us every day, every time. Like recent survey says that in the AI adoption ranking, we have slipped from 10th to 17th. That's a great slip. Recently, and I came across a study very recently. Why so? Somewhere they say it's infrastructure. And infrastructure, it's electricity. Now, these are the issues, AI and sustainability. Maybe they have to go together, or is there any contradiction? The sort of electricity requirement which run, suppose a large language modeling, do we have that enough? We are in an agricultural belt now. The farmers which requires electricity to run or water their field, to run their farm, should that scarce electricity go to that farmer or to run a large language model? output of it is really not clearly defined. So these are, bigger questions to ponder with. Okay, where you have got best of the minds of the country here, best of the companies possible. Okay, the IC team under the guidance of Professor Gargi Rawat and the faculty team has done wonderful job that first time because all the technology, big technology companies and who's who people are there. And we are fortunate to be with them, to listen to them, and I'm sure next couple of hours is going to be very exciting learning journey for all of us. Use every minute, every moment of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for emphasizing how innovation must align with our long-term development and societal impact. Um,
To guide today's discussion, we are joined by four distinguished speakers who represent industry, product leadership, enterprise AI, and human-centered design. Each of them brings a unique lens on how ideas evolve into impactful solutions and how students can build careers aligned with this journey. So, coming to our first guest, is Parth Sangani from Microsoft, who has a strong product leadership perspective. Parth from Microsoft has worked on building and scaling AI-powered products that are used by millions globally. He brings clarity on how product managers and business leaders must think differently in the AI-first world, making his insights especially relevant for MBA students and aspiring product managers. I would like to now invite Parth to begin his presentation.
Just okay. Okay. I hope I'm audible. Okay, so we spent about 15 more minutes talking about a few things, how things have changed. Before that, thank you so much for having me here. Professor Gandhi just said, privilege that we are here. I say, and we are privileged to also learn and see so many young minds here. And thank you so much to the JIT team for inviting me. So what I'm going to do is, this is a talk, right? And the slides are for reference. And we'll do it in two parts, basically. And these are essentially thoughts on what is changing and what does it mean for all of us. And about product building. So when I say products, most people immediately think of anything that is just technology or an app. A product, everything is a product. You are also a product. Your service is a product. Right? A product is a means to an end, right? So if I start, so the world has fundamentally changed, right? And when we say this, like again, I'll come back to what Mr. Gandhi said, like the way we are thinking, the way we are building, the way we are deploying things, and the way we are now even evaluating things, everything has changed. And if I talk about the first implication of it, is that the cost of execution has collapsed. So now let's go back to 16th century, 15th century.
So we've always had the need to write, right? You don't write. We have thoughts all the time. Now you want to write, you have to scribble. Now if you wanted to share that with someone, you had to make a copy of it, right? Manually by hand. Then you got the printing press. Printing press means now suddenly that idea, if it is strong enough, now you can create copies at like 100x, 1000x. In the AI world, that is now like the expansion of this scale is now infinite. And when I say infinite, what does that mean? Let's say when I am developing a product, and some of you would have tried to build prototypes. We used to try to do drawings. We started with simple drawings in MS Paint. Then we came to all this Figma. Now you want to generate anything, you can just instantly do it. And the cost of it, and I said cost of execution. So imagine if you had an idea in your mind and now you had to deploy it. It took time and it took so much money to even verify that whether the idea is working. Let's say this printing press. You think the idea is great for 10 people, it's gonna be very difficult. You will have to invest. You have printed now 1,000 copies, and then maybe people don't read it. Now you already spent all that cost. With AI, now you can just generate anything. So everything, be it code, be it prototypes, be it design, almost anything, even apps, anything in the digital world is essentially the incremental cost is next to zero. Right? And what that means is that your effort and the amount of work it takes is now no longer the bottleneck. And when you have this, right? So the next implication, if I take this story forward, is now you have infinite supply of everything, right? Now, we were just talking about your experience on Flipkart and stuff. Flipkart had a great ad of Indian mindset, right? Ek aur dikha. I want more options when I'm trying to buy. Amazon, when I was at Amazon, the whole philosophy was people will always want more choice. With AI, now that is infinite choice. And what that means is, now let's say you want you're like, okay, I want to design my house. Now you go to AI, you're like, okay, give me, this is the photograph of my bedroom, give me interior designs. It will generate, if you want, 1,000,000 designs, whatever you want. Now, what this means is that differentiation, you are different, does not come from making things, right? Because everyone can make anything and everything at infinite scale, right? For anybody. So if you are building, now what this means is you are drowning. You are gonna drown. It's inevitable. And we see all of this more and more mentions of AI law. Right? And I was just writing about it even in Microsoft. I was talking about sloth has always existed. It's nothing new. Like bad writing was always there, bad drawings were always there, bad films were always there. Now you have an infinitum. What that means is, for the first time, supply is not at all in the picture. Supply constraint. And that means that your quality and differentiation is going to come from something else. But one more implication of it. So this is like a Lorentz attractor, which is like chaos theory, where any error you make at the start, another thing is when you're building apps like these or anything that you leverage elements for, you start creating, because everything is sequential, even the slightest error, and I don't know even call it an intentional error or a bias or a difference in direction, even the slightest one at the start is going to propagate and amplify as it traverses through the end, downstream stages and it reaches the customer or whoever you are supposed to build that app for. Like a very, very simple example. You have assumed, let me say that you're building an AI and you're saying be helpful. Okay? That's generally the constitutional framework. You will always have that. Right? You say, be helpful. Now, okay, to what extent? What if I say I want to create a chemical bomb? What if I do you help there? Okay. No. Now, how do you say, okay, what do you not help with? Now, this also has implications on when you are building product, right? You build a product saying, okay, you want to build a chatbot, you want to build some reservation system, you want to build something else. everything that you assume at the start is going to propagate because LLMs by inherent in their nature are a prediction machine. And prediction is probabilistic. None of it is deterministic. And that comes to like my next one, where I'm saying what this means, all the above, is that now relevance is the product. Right? So you have infinite options, right? Infinite amount of articles that you can generate instantly, infinite amount of apps you can build. Like you use Google Anti-Gravity, one day you will get almost Android, iOS app. Use Claude Code, Coworker. You can do anything you want. Now the thing is, within that, how relevant is it at solving that problem? That has become the product, right? And that is absolutely, and like, if you want to hold someone's attention, it has become that much harder. Right? And this is something that we will just discuss it also. That when you combine these errors with scale, the inherent nature of prediction systems like an LLM, now uncertainty has moved into product. So what I mean by that? Okay? You go to a reservation ticketing platform. Okay? You go to ticketing platform, you click on something, you should get ticketed. It has to be a highly deterministic system. Right? You want to know how much inventory is there in your, whatever store. You want to know that it is exactly 10. They're simple things. As you move towards the LLM, I have built a product which is, let's say, your own, let's say it's a recommendation system that you build for yourself. You can give the exact same pattern each time as an input, and you can get a different output, right, as a product. And this means that uncertainty inherently has moved into the product. So previously, we could always say that this is what I give, this is what I get, let me test, let me stress test this system. Okay, let's say it's the same ticketing system, how many people will try to book, what will happen, I could test it. Here, you have something like an LLM. Now, what will people use it for? Will it even give the right output if I ask it something? And you've seen all these examples, right? Some chatbot will completely haywire, like it's trying to, it starts giving out gibberish instead of trying to answer your question. That's the problem with trying to integrate an LLM kind of protect into things which is very deterministic. So one of the key things that we do inside product is actually creating extremely extensive evaluations and then guardrails to ensure that you can get some degree of certainty. But if you're, and literally the UX is the problem, right? Like, and the product itself is changing. So what is it that you will control? How will you control? What if the user just gives something completely random to it and it starts giving something else? Then you're no longer in control of the product. Right? It's doing something else entirely unintended, and that can have catastrophic consequences, right? In some ways. So it has security risks. So these are everything has changed. Right? And now I come to the part where I say all of that is irrelevant. Right? The world has changed in terms of how we implement and what we do, right? And what we want to like really have control for, and what has changed in terms of our operating here, right? What I want to do is talk about fundamentals. So people say that LLM has created this entire new category, entire new way. You will see all these startups getting funded like crazy, and all of the money getting pulled into data centers, lots of money. When I teach product and when we discuss product, I always say no new human needs can be created. They don't need. We still have the same needs that we had, always have. Right? And everything, if you think about it, always ladders up to survival and expansion of our lineage. Right? It is everything, status. And if you think about the fundamentals of what people need, that is not changed. Right? We all create validation, we all want survival, we want good health for, again, having a great health span, to expand our lineage, all of that is essentially tied to what makes us human. That does not change. Right? We always wanted to communicate to each other, to feel that socially, just because we don't want to feel alone, right? It's again a sense of safety. So you want to paint, you want to talk, you want to communicate, it still remains, right? And technology only, each shift and even a tectonic shift in tech only changes the expression of how it comes out. But the core thinking and the core needs don't change. And our goal is to move to that direction. So and that's what I want to cover in the next 3 slides. The second thing, which is we said in the infinite supply and everything stuff, excellence will always be non-linear. What I mean by that, and I'll give this example, right? So let's say the first phase was we democratized and made the incremental cost of information zero, right? With the internet. You don't find anything in the world, you can find. Like imagine 3,000 years ago, people would travel 3,000, 5,000 kilometers and spend 20 years trying to go and study, okay, Socrates is here giving which I have to just meet them, right? And you will go like, you have to just to even find something, know something. It took a lifetime. You now can get anything out there in the world at an instant. But have we certainly seen a lot more, Einstein's in there, like something which is absolutely radically changing everything? You will know. Since that, to reach that state of excellence that inherently is so non-linear, that democratization does not automatically mean excellence. Right? And that as you move up the peak, and I bring this point to highlight that you are now going to need this even more because you're now drowning in infinite supply of things. And if you are not creating it, you will be fed that, right? So it's the same thing. When you go on the internet and now, okay, we are desperate, we go after from one video to the other, it's infinite. And you still then feel empty. It's the same reason. Right? Because you still need discernment as to where you want to invest time. And if you want to really build a product which is extensive, you will need to put in that amount of exhaustive, mind-numbing thought into building it. Right? And every decibel, like you can reach 90% after a lot of effort. The 90 to 99 is not linear. It's not 2x or 10x. It is 100x. And from 99 to go to 99.9, so in latency when you run an app, let's say it's running at let's say 20 milliseconds. To go from 20 milliseconds, and that's your P95, and I want to go to like 5 milliseconds, it is gonna take 100x the resources to meet that final frontier. That is what we have aspired. Otherwise, like, yeah, one prompt, you got something, everybody has that. That doesn't mean it is excellent in any way. Right? Judgment will always come from reality. Right? Like we spoke about judgment. Like when you have all of this, what is taste? Why do you like specific shapes? Why does a rounded corner feel safe? Why does a specific proportion feel beautiful? Right? What colors go together well? What are the interaction patterns that make you feel like, okay, this is trustworthy? Right? All of that judgment comes from reality. Right? And so if you see, there is this famous, right? Nature has no straight lines. Nature doesn't do anything in straight lines because that's not natural. You want to have straight lines in certain ways when you want to really exemplify your mark in the world, but it's a different concept. But from a safety standpoint, from an evolution standpoint, it is all fractals and golden ratios. And what does it mean? And I've just given this as an example. When you're building a product, you will just feel, right, in your interaction. So my like one point of this slide was like, if you want to build great products, don't study products, study reality, right? Study biology, study philosophy, study psychology. That will tell you what has always worked for people, what is universal. And yeah, trust is to design trust. So trust is a design trust in the sense that how do you design that system? So let me give you a simple example. So the value of an like I don't know if you remember, there was a time in Excel or Word or like PowerPoint, but no, it did not have an undo button. You only have to write and then erase. The power of the undo button is to just make you feel safe and exponentially motivated. It's like having that brake in your car. Like if you don't have it, you just cannot go. Like, yeah, you will never go beyond 1 kmph. You don't talk with your foot. That is the power of great design. It is not contributing to building, but it is contributing to unlocking the ability to feel safe when creating. So a product has to be like that. Right? And there are reversible systems. And this is painted by Atkinson Bishop. This and it doesn't come out here. You should check him out. He paints night skies, right? Night skies of insane quality. And like, yeah, I generated this in 1 second. Like I've created fashion portfolios for my family, comics when my son is there, yeah, and but if like I love doing it, when I had to fine tune models because it was took so much effort. Now I can do it in 1 click with Nano Banana. It is an awesome piece of tech. The value of it doesn't just come from the output. It also, when you see something like this, or you look at my David, you look at anything of that level, you immediately understand the effort it took to get that level. Right? And what I mean to say that is, with AI being infinite in generation, with AI giving you probabilistic and unknowables, what remains constant is we have to all strive to continuously move towards finding that narrow beam of light which can guide us very quickly. Right? And that comes from experience, that comes from being alone, being really, really hard on yourself and really thinking everything through. Right? So that is it. And never lower your standards. This one, I think, yeah, this is a different media, but that's fine. Right? So I think I want to end by just one line that, so relevance became the product. Uncertainty moved into the product. But the core work has never changed. Our core work is to be of value. Right? And we crave being of value to people and finding the right expression of that value. The difficulty in reaching there has not changed. It will never change. It is to find that standard and it is to find ourselves in trying to find that standard. So that's where I end. Thank you so much for this time. Okay. Okay, we have questions.
Thanks, Parth, for the amazing presentation. Now we would like to begin with Q&A according to the presentation. If any of you have any questions, you can ask Parth. You can raise hands before asking.
So as per you, we are creating a product. It may be a physical product or a service. So what is the end point of a consumer? On which point we can say now the technology is not going to be beyond this point and we are going to wind with this.
Oh, great question. So the question is, if I paraphrase correctly, when do you know when to stop?
What is your stopping point? Now the technology is stop here. Human intelligence could be beyond this point, but the technology cannot. Is it possible or not?
So we don't know. The short answer is we don't know where tech will be and whether, like frankly speaking, I read a lot out of this space and we don't know what is API, right? But even if you say it had it, and today already we can't really understand if you are talking to a human on the web or not. Now already there are enough voice models that if you're talking to someone, you will never know whether someone is a human in the digital space or not. In that sense, it does not matter. Where does technology end? Where does it begin? What matters is what did it make you feel, and when I say what is the core value that you are trying to deliver to that end user? Is that server? Otherwise, everything is an internet server. So when the customer says, "I love it," then stop tinkering. If they like it, and even if it's 1%. It's okay.
That could be the answer only for the one prospect, na?
Totally fine.
He says, I love this product, but my end point is not the same of this person. So my limits are different than this
Probably,
individual.
but you were building it for someone. That someone is going to define that endpoint. And a lot of people fail because they fail to respect that. Right? Because then we are building for ourselves and not for someone else. That is a perfectly valid argument to have of how we want to build. But then we should be clear that we are building only for ourselves. Like to give an example, I am building like I have a detailed reading model for my son. Right? He's 4 years old, or what he likes, based on all of that, what are the books that he can now do, what are the activities he can do. For all you know, it is for that one person. Nobody else cares about such a model. They may care, but right now I am not building for anyone else. As long as he likes and he feels engaged with whatever he's learning and he likes that path, then he do it to path. So to me, it's like where does machine and human intelligence begin? Are there things which humans will always have? I think it is responsibility, accountability, ownership. Right? Who will own the decision? You cannot just say, okay, this system created an accident. Yeah, system is a failure. Someone has to own the decision. That humans only will have. And the final decision of what you choose to keep or not keep, it goes yours. So I think that will never change. And it will only become more and more and more important because everything else is gonna just drown us in options.
Anyone else, any more questions? Yeah. You can say.
So my name is Sheikh, and I feel an honor to be here and joining in this discussion. My question to you is, in this world of AI, as you discussed earlier, that the people with the subject-specific research knowledge, like in philosophy, physics, biology, and every other fields, will do more in comparison to people with just AI knowledge on the technical part. So what are your insights about this thing that in future will the people with just AI and engineering aspect will build things or just the people with the actual theoretical knowledge?
So,
Like the PhD grads.
so I'll say this thing. You can know how to use an Excel in a million ways. You can know, okay, I can know VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, AI is all of that. What you can use formulas, you can use macros. AI is a tool. What you use it for is finding you will define that. And that you will not find inside of AI. Right? You will have to find it in reality and within yourself. And that's why you come back to fundamentals of why we exist. Like philosophy asks you, what does existence mean? What do it mean? What are my values? You're trying to figure that out, right? And then direct it to a purpose. So hence I make that point. Like, and it's about also like if you understand physics, then you understand again reality. Everything is going to hit reality one way or the other. And when I say it's not about theoretical knowledge of the subject, right? It is about understanding why do I feel what I feel, and why do I think the way I think, and why, what are my assumptions about the world that I need to update, and that comes from these fundamental subjects. Right? The physics, the mathematics, about everything, philosophy, then after that you say physics, then came chemistry, then came biology. Biology came so late into the universe also, but still it is way older than anything else that we can comprehend. So anything else that we have as our vocabulary is too small. And these subjects are the ones which have tackled that for you to understand. Like you have two apps. Why is this working? Why is not something else not working? Then you understand social structures, you understand psychology, and then you understand why, and you try to uncover this. So hence, but yeah, that's the question, and that's my answer to that question. Like, truth does not reside in tactics. Right? It's not a dogmatic layer. It's at a very fundamental level.
So thanks, Parth, for your amazing answers. So now I would like to invite Professor Ratikant Bhaskar sir to felicitate Parth.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Jesus.
Thanks once again, Parth. Now, our next panelist, Anshuman Mansingh, works at the intersection of AI, enterprise adoption, and ecosystem-led innovation. So, Mr. Mansingh is associated with Google, where he engages with organizations to translate AI capabilities into scalable business outcomes. His experience offers valuable insights for students interested in product roles, consulting, go-to-market strategy, and AI-driven business transformation, especially those who want to understand how innovation works at scale.
While typing at my laptop. Yeah, I'll probably try to read the room. How many of your students use your hands? Students in schools. So, and what classes are you from? 11th and 12th. Oh, awesome. And so I assume rest of you are from IIM Kashipur. Awesome. All right. My order. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So namaste. My name is Anshuman Mansingh, and that is the QR code to my LinkedIn profile. You have, you don't have. On this side, you have only can scan connect with me. What do I do? I belong to Google. I lead a group of engineers in the sales team. So we are the Google Cloud sales team. I work on a product called Google Workspace. Google Workspace is a product that has a combination of services. Some of you may already know some of the services. Have you heard of Gmail? It's part of Google Workspace. If you've heard of Drive, if you've heard of so Parth mentioned about anti-character, part of it's a host of services that come together and we call that part of Google Workspace. Why do we call it Google Workspace? Because large enterprises generally need these services and we sell this. Why am I part of the sales team? We sell this service as a bundle to large enterprises, large companies. What does my team do? At the end of the day, Google is a tech company. And so when we sell our services to companies, they need a little bit of understanding of what our services can do for their business goals. And that needs an engineer with a sales mentality. And that is what my team does. My team is spread across Asia Pacific. We cover 50 plus countries. I'm the only one in India. The rest of my team is spread across all of the regions in Asia Pacific. And so that's my team. What do we do today? Generally, we begin a slideshow with an agenda slide, right? We talk about what am I going to speak about it. But since we're speaking about AI, I thought let's do something interesting. Let AI set the agenda for today. Let's see that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to AI to set the agenda.
Thank you, Anshuman. Namaste, IIM Kashipur. India 2.0 में आपका स्वागत है. Listen, the market today, it is like this mirror. hold fast and keep forgiving. You can try paddling harder with no tools, but honestly, that is just survival. Today, we move beyond survival. We will talk about the agentic shift, moving from doing the work yourself to orchestrating a digital workforce. We will look at how Google is building the engine for this global transformation. And most importantly, we will define your future role, not just as a manager who checks boxes, but as an architect who designs intelligence. The current is fast, boss. Stop rowing along. Hire the AI. Thank you, IIM Kashipur. Over to you, Anshuman. Let's get started.
Thank you, Gemini. Right, so that's a product that we said that allows you to create greater content. But that's a glimpse of what we do. Let's talk about why we're here. When you talk about AI, most of us have used ChatGPT, Gemini in our daily lives. There are chatbots. You may have asked it questions from your syllabus, or you may have uploaded a PDF, asked it to summarize or write an email for you, or you may have written text for your answers. You may have asked it to refine for it. The reality is that those capabilities are old news spread. It is like a hygiene factor. Everybody has access to it. What is the future? What is going to define your roles tomorrow? It is the agentic shift, and you can see that on the curve here. We've used generative AI, but now we are moving towards an agentic AI. What is agentic AI? We're looking at small agents that are going to act on your behalf, that are going to make decisions on your behalf in your daily lives, in your daily workflows. Instead of AI having to wait for your command to do something, this AI bots or agents will take those decisions and do operations on your behalf. That's what we are moving towards. It is important for you to learn those agentic AI behaviors and models. Why so? Because the future roles that you will be in will not revolve around how you use AI better, but probably how you manage this whole team of digital workforce or digital AI or digital teammates that you will have at your workplaces. And that requires a different skill. And so it is important to understand the curve that we're going through. I'll give you an example of how agentic AI has changed how Google does work. This slide basically talks about how agentic AI should completely transform our security operations. I talked about Gmail, right? There are 3 billion users of Gmail. The population of Earth is 7 billion. Gmail users 3 billion. So close to 50% of the Earth uses Gmail. Now, if you have used Gmail, may have received spams, you may have received, some emails which might be suspicious. The Gmail security operations team handles this kind of threat issues daily, and it is at when you have 3 billion users, it is at hyperscale level. What used to happen is our security operations team used to manually go through this threat reports, not only from our services, but also from third-party services. And then used to figure out, okay, what do we do with this threat reports? What operations should we do to mitigate that those security risks? It used to be a manual operation, which is very, very, very difficult to handle. So we built an agentic AI system into our security operations that now does this automatically. It automatically takes a look at the threat report, looks at third-party reports, and finds out how do we mitigate those threats or security situations. And not only this is, not only figures out how to do it, also does the action in our infrastructure. With that, we could reduce 96% of the manual overhead that we had in security operations.
You have to switch on the mic. But it's not carrying over.
Is it better now?
Yes, perfect.
Sorry. So we could reduce the manual overhead in our security operations by 96% through agentic AI systems. And so that is just one example of how Google is using it. And many of the enterprises that we speak with at Asia Pacific level are shifting towards those kind of models in their industrial workflows. This is another example. You may have already heard of AI is also completely transforming developer productivity. Right now, nearly half of the code written within Google is by AI. What is it doing? What we've done here is across all the services that developers have access to, we have enabled AI-powered agents, AI-powered, let's say, bots that help developers, let's say, write a new algorithm or write a piece of code. They don't have to do the mundane code writing anymore. What developers are doing today is architecting them. Instead of laying the brick, they are just saying, okay, how do systems connect with each other? And they let the AI do the mundane job of writing the code for them. So that is also somewhere we have completely transformed the way developers used to work with AI. We've spoken, I mean, that should convince you that AI is going to transform the way we work, but it also comes with its own challenge of how do we scale? AI requires a lot of infrastructure. I think Professor Pradhan talked about the infrastructure requirements of LLMs and how do we talk about sustainability. So scaling is a big problem. As more and more people and enterprises start using AI, we will need more and more infrastructure. And not only that, it will also require you as future leaders to understand how to, if you build AI products, how do we handle scale? The chart that you see here is predominantly an expectation chart related to a $15 billion investment that we have done in Vizag to set up an AI hub. It's a data center, an AI data center that we're setting up in India, the first one of its kind. Why am I showing this chart? This chart is basically telling you what kind of economic impact we're expecting out of this data center in Vizag. It also showcases something else. It showcases that India is no more the back office for global operations. It is becoming a compute engine hub for global operations. That it brings up new opportunities for you as future leaders to understand that we have such an infrastructure within our own country that we can leverage to build future applications and future products. Now, if AI does all of this job for you, what is your role? It is a big question, right? If you are future managers, if you are future decision makers, future leaders, and AI is already doing half the job that you expected to do, what do you do? This kind of chart generally scares a lot of traditional managers. Traditionally, managers used to be empowered by the knowledge they had of, let's say, data that is buried within the organization. You know what? You speak to the manager, can this work be done? And manager used to go and respond, hey, I'll go get back with the data that we have within the organization for you. Their skill in finding data which is deeply buried within the organization or in the internet or wherever used to be a major skill for you, for the managers to get hired. Now it is not a problem. With AI, you can directly speak with the data and get the insights that you want. So what does the manager do? Right? What does the manager do? The manager's role now shifts to judgment on decision. In your first year, probably you may have heard of the OODA cycle, which is observe, orient, decide, and act cycle. That is what the manager does. The observe and orient, which is essentially getting the data and assessing the data and figuring out what to do. That cycle is completely changed. What is now your role going to be is to focus your skills on how to decide and how to act on what AI gives you as data points. that is what is going to be a core skill that is going to define your roles in the future. For instance, this is a traditional. This is one of the examples probably that you would be interested in. One of many of you may be from marketing streams. If you are, one of the major operations in a marketing, I am from sales and marketing again. One of the major operations that we used to have is before a campaign, we have to create a lot of assets. Right? And if you are dealing with a huge country like India or a huge region like Asia Pacific, there are a lot of language barriers. And so you have to create campaign assets in 150 plus languages. And when you did it manually, it used to take a long time. So you had a campaign conceptualization, and the time between conceptualization and a campaign and actual go-to-market activity used to be huge because there is so much time spent on asset creation. Now with AI that is reduced, we created a small agentic AI, let's say marketing operations chatbot, wherein you can just put a campaign brief, and within minutes it can create assets in various different languages, including emails, pamphlets, brochures, website copies, and give it to you within minutes. Now, your job as a marketing manager is not to create assets, is to figure out how to do SEG, segmentation, targeting, and which is the actual major chunk that you should be, which is the actual insightful work or impactful work that you should be focused on. So that's the game. How that whole cycle is being changed by AI, and you should again develop skills for that. So again, I have been speaking about how roles are modified, getting modified. This is a chart that talks about some of the new roles that are coming up because of coming of AI. We have AI product managers. We saw Parth speak. He is part of that community, but we have AI product managers as a whole segment that is coming up. We also see AI architects, agent architects. I talked about agents, how agents are changing the way we work. They are making this, they are doing things on your behalf. Now, what do agent architects do? They basically put the agents together in a place, in a way, in a chain that meets the business goals that you have. That architect, that architect is a skill that you. Vibe coding is another great thing that is coming up. It is my personal favorite. With vibe coding, anybody is a developer now. You can speak in your natural language to an AI agent, and it will create the app for you. And you almost have like unlimited amount of code and apps that can be generated out of those. Develop that skill. I would request all of you to get your hands dirty. It is back to the basics for everyone. So that is another role. The roles around that is something that you may have to go ahead and. Now here's the thing, AI has a lot of potential. It has the potential to be as transformative as PC or the internet. This is a quote not by me, it is by the JP Morgan. And there is no doubt about it. But a lot of people have doubts about if the whole growth story is going to be sustainable. People are worried about the infrastructure that is required for AI, the huge data center, the huge energy costs. Google, for Google, it is the third decade of its climate action. We've been working on climate since 2003, and in 2003 we built our own data centers, which are custom built right from this chip level to meet the climate goals that we had set for ourselves. And I'll give you some examples as well. The custom chips that we built are much more energy efficient than the ones that you find in the market. Similarly, in 2017, we achieved 100% renewable energy efficiency. So all of our data centers, all of our periphery, services. Renewable energy. We have a goal of reaching carbon-free energy 100% by 2030. So yeah, so that's a goal that we have set for our people, that 2030 is going to be a big year for a lot of large enterprises. Because a lot of enterprises have set 2030 as the goal to reach CFE 100%. It is part of the Paris Agreement, the Rio Convention. So that is an aim that we're going to place. But we also feel that sustainability or the ability to go in nature is also a data challenge. It's not only an infrastructure challenge or an energy challenge. Why is it a data challenge? Because you have AI, you can now do more work with less investments or infrastructure or energy intensive, let's say, networks. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. With this company, C3, it's a company in Israel. Instead of me explaining what they do, I'll just show you what they do with AI and how it has helped them, achieve a lesser carbon footprint and also help others achieve a lesser carbon footprint. So this is a video that's watched here.
Single tree can capture 50 pounds of carbon in the atmosphere every year. With around 3 trillion trees on our planet, keeping those trees healthy is essential for fighting the future of climate change.
At Sydney, we have a business and both the companies to quantify CO2 and carbon sequestration and to monetize it through carbon credits. With our AI and machine learning tools, we help farmers and foresters to measure every single tree, the size and the health of that tree.
This empowers them at the same time to increase revenues while doing what's best for our planet by reducing chemicals, utilizing water more efficiently, and increasing the amount of CO2 that's sequestered by each tree. Because forests and farmland can be so vast and enormous, Google Cloud is really critical for us. It allows us to collect and analyze huge amounts of data from hundreds of thousands of acres worldwide and do it quickly.
The traditional methods today take around 9 months to do carbon sequestration estimation for a large area. With Cloud Platform, we can do it in a few hours.
Forestry and agribusinesses are tremendously fragmented industries, each requiring unique solutions, and being able to do that at scale is nearly impossible without Google Cloud powering their system. Planet Earth's trees are our greatest ally in fighting climate change. At C-Tree, we couldn't be prouder to help them fulfill their climate improving potential.
Alright, so what does it tell you? It tells you that with AI does not, you don't have to look at it in isolation. While infrastructure requirements for AI is there, but overall AI as a product is going to help a lot of other services and companies reduce their own carbon footprint and achieve a better climate for us. So we have to look at the holistic picture. Now, coming back to Google, we have, like I was saying, we have built our own custom data centers. We also build our own data centers right from the chip level. So we build our own chips, we build our own servers, we build our own storage, we have our own networks, we have our own data centers. There are no vendors in the middle for our AI services. So much so that this is the 7th generation PPU IIM that that we have released versus Trillium that we announced in 2025, which is 2x more efficient, 5x more peak compute capacity. So all of these numbers may not make sense to you, but just to tell the bottom line, it is that we are designing services and infrastructure that is more and more efficient from a sustainability standpoint. We talked about chips. We have also laid down our own cables, optic cables under the ocean, which are designed in a way that is more sustainable, which carry almost 40% of the world's data, internet data. So Google also
has done that. We have been building AI for a decade now. We started in 2015. In fact, the T in GPT, Chat GPT, stands for transformers. Transformers is a concept that was first published in a paper by Google. So we were the pioneers when it comes to AI. And we have been doing this for a long time. But the key question is, well, yeah, everybody aware that Google is an AI company. Are we doing it responsibly? And showcase another video where we talk about how we are developing AI in a much more responsible way. We talked about sustainability. Let's also talk about responsibility, which is another important aspect that we should care about. Let's watch this video.
I'm excited about Gemini because it's probably the most capable AI system we've ever developed.
But safety and responsibility has to be built in from the beginning. And at Google DeepMind, that's what we've done with Gemini.
As this system become more capable, efficient multimodality, images, audio, video, all of those capabilities also raise new questions.
Going from image to text, that introduces new contextual challenges. Because an image might be innocuous on its own, or text might be innocuous on its own, but the combination can be offensive or we develop proactive policies and adapt those to the unique considerations of multimodal capabilities. And that allows us to test for new risks like cybersecurity and considerations like bias and toxicity.
One of the key areas is not only internal evaluations, but also external evaluations. This can look like external red teaming to bring in different experts to give us their perspectives on how the model is performing, but it also involves getting their advice.
So we're working with organizations like ML Commons to develop extensive benchmarks that we can use both to test models within Google and across the industry. And we're also creating cross-industry collaborations via frameworks like SAFE, the Secure AI framework.
It's an incredible way to learn from the industry, learn from other experts, and build that into how we're approaching responsibility at Google.
It can mean that our models, our products are better for people and better for society overall.
Yeah, so responsible AI is also another important aspect that we should care about. Now here's the thing. We talked about what Google is doing today. What is next for us? We are moving into quantum computing. We're developing Willow chip. Willow is a chip. Is the first quantum computing chip that we have developed. It's already launched. It's not in the market yet, but it is as a concept already launched, and we've already shown the first chip. So AI is moving towards that. Willow as a chip, the quantum computing chip, is going to help us achieve what we call AGI, or artificial general intelligence. We're already moving towards that. But all of that aside, how can you as people get started? All of this infrastructure, all of this AI is available. It is probably available to be used by large organizations. But what about you students? What I'm going to do is showcase something that you can get started with today. And it's a very intuitive product. We call it Notebook LM. Have you heard of it? Yes. For those who haven't, let me show you what it does. I will go ahead and showcase my screen. And we will get started from there. Alright, just see my screen now. So this is Notebook LM, right? What is the purpose of the notebook? Can anybody see?
I would say probably to gather your notes, your thoughts, and list it down and use it in effect.
Awesome. What about clusters?
Just short data.
Yeah, okay. What else?
You give any kind of input, it can convert it into fully complete, let's say infographics.
That's not okay. But what is the core purpose of a notebook? Yeah,
Data analysis.
good.
Make notes.
Yeah, take notes. Core purpose, there is a heavy flow of data that gets at you every day, every time. So you're sitting in a classroom, there's a lot of data that is coming. The purpose of a notebook is that you take down what is important to you, that you can read back later. Right? And when you talk about reading back, what is it? It is essentially consumption of knowledge. But if you look at a room, not everybody wants to consume knowledge in the same format. Some of us like to read, some of us like to watch probably a podcast or a video. Some of us like to maybe sit in a classroom and listen. Not everybody consumes knowledge in the same way. But our notebook, which is sitting in front of us, only allows us to read. It is not intelligent enough to understand that somebody might not be able to consume that knowledge just by reading. That is the core problem that notebook tries to solve. It is a notebook that allows you to put data in any format. It could be text, it could be video, it could be a website link. And it allows you to consume that data in any format that you want. It could be back in text, back in a video, back in an audio, or a podcast. I'll show you an example. This notebook here has 3 books. It has marketing management by Porter. It has macroeconomics book and a financial management book. I think first year students will be aware of that, right? I created this notebook with these 3 texts, and I asked it to create a podcast. I'll play that podcast and show you the kind of generation that it has done. So this is the podcast. And imagine you are probably sitting in your house home and you don't want to read, but you want to hear somebody talk about a subject. It can do that for you. Now I'll play this podcast.
Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're listening to this, chances are you aren't really looking for the introduction to business summary.
Right.
You aren't here for the 1-1 level definitions or the flushy motivational poster slogans.
No, we're going past that today.
Today,
So you see the natural language in which it creates the podcast. But here's the magic. You're consuming knowledge, but you have a question. What do you do?
we are putting on the figurative suits and ties.
Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I want to know how products like Gemini or ChatGPT fit into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Sometimes I think the microphone is.
We need to allow the problem.
Thank you so much. I'll do that again.
Oh, hey there, what's up?
Yeah, I want to tell me how products like ChatGPT and Gemini fit into Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That is a phenomenal question.
A truly modern application of a classic theory.
Okay, let's unpack this with Maslow's pyramid.
We talked about this briefly.
It starts at the base with those basic human requirements.
Physiological safety needs, right?
But Maslow also includes needs for education and information.
And that's where the AI models like ChatGPT and Gemini shine.
Exactly. They primarily target the higher levels of the pyramid.
They're fulfilling psychogenic needs, not biogenic ones.
They are going to give you.
So imagine you have a textbook that you do not want to go through,
but you have a question that needs answer. And you will not have access to an expert. You just ask notebook LM in your natural language. It does not have to be English. It can be Hindi, it can be Bangla, it can be any Indian language. You can ask a question, it will give you that answer. Imagine how better you can consume. Right? That is one of the examples. I'll give you last month I was sitting with the CEO of the largest bank in Sri Lanka. And he was telling me that one of the core problems that he has is in daily life is he has 200 branches that he has to report about every week to his board of investors. 200 branches will give him each 10-page long report, and he has to read through while he is driving, while he is at home, so that he can prepare for this weekly board meeting and answer any question. With a tool like Notebook LM, you can just dump in multiple reports into Notebook LM. Now his job is not to find out information, his job is to now decide. Okay. Remember the cycle, the OODA cycle. No more time spent on finding out data, you are now spending more time on making the right decisions and making the right actions. That's what he told us. It's a real life example. For you as students, again, just dump in your textbooks and figure out what you want to know. It does not only create podcasts, it also creates videos. For example, this is a video that I created on one of the topics. But this is in Hindi. I'll just show you the kind of videos that you create.
फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट के वो कौन से सबसे जरूरी सिद्धांत हैं जो हर मैनेजर को पता ही होनी चाहिए?
You can just give it a topic and a language, and it will take that video for you. Get your hands dirty with this. This will be your first introduction to how AI makes your lives easier. If you don't take that anything, just remember Notebook LM. I think that will very help you. With this, I think I'll end my presentations. Are there any questions?
So my name is Anshuman Mansingh, and my question to you is that as AI is increasingly shaping products, payments, cities, and even education, how can it be ensured that the innovation is more human-centric than just efficiency-centric, to have that human touch that AI does not have?
Oh, good question. I'll take this example probably nearer to Uttarakhand. Here we have a lot of farmers. Right? Imagine you are developing a product that is for farmers, but it requires the farmer to input prompts only in the most proficient levels of English. Would that work? So for an Indian context, if you are developing a product in AI, you probably have to go for a product design that is voice first. You have to let the farmers enter their prompts in voice or vernacular. You also have to talk about how the accents and dialects that they speak. That is a human-centered design rather than a design that is really. And we have been working towards that. You have to get in touch with users' reality. We have to assume that the user who is intending to use an AI product is motivated enough to go ahead and use it. But you have to take the product to the user or design the product in such a way that the user can go ahead and use it. And you will see that, and otherwise the product itself will fail. And in all of our services that you will see, at least on Google, you will see those elements seen in. For instance, and not only Google, you may have heard of companies like Server, or who are developing GPT, which understand 22 plus languages. We ourselves are working on Gemini that can understand not only all the Indian languages, which is surely, but also 300 plus dialects. Or even within, let's say, Uttarakhand, if you go north to south, there are dialect changes. right? We're working on it. So that we are much more human centered than just efficiency centered. And it is going to be important. Yeah, it's a transition period of work for us.
Rise of the intellectual type will be more.
And
So, good morning, sir. My name is Rishi. AI is automating everything, and in this process is taking up a lot of jobs, right? So, what do you think? Will the government allow such rapid pace development? And because, let's say, for example, driverless cars already exist, but Indian government is not allowing them to be introduced in India. So, do you think how is Google going to tackle this problem of not letting the technology be introduced in India?
is your question more about regulation or is your question about the speed of things?
Regulation and the speed.
Okay, good question. Since are you first year or second year? First year, right? Let's tackle the regulation piece first. You must have heard of these theories within your MBA studies. That there is this there's this theory that the seller and the buyer have to have the same knowledge for an ecosystem to succeed. When the seller knows more than the buyer, then the buyer is never going to trust in both ecosystem of products. What does that mean? Let's say we talk about cars. If the seller knows more about the car than the buyer, then the buyer will not be able to make a decision on which is a good car, which is a bad car. Because he does not, or he or she does not have the full information about it. It is only with the seller. Similarly, if I take the conversation to AI context, there are a lot of videos floating around which are generated by AI in digital media. So there are real videos as well. If there aren't enough mechanisms for you as an individual to figure out which content is AI generated and which is real, there will come a time when you will not trust any digital media at all. The trust factor in that whole ecosystem will become zero. Entire market collapses. And that's why regulation is important. Don't see regulation as a constraint, it is a signal of quality. Regulation does not mean only laws, it also brings in certifications. So if Government of India decides that, hey, you know what, if this is a digital content, it has been certified because it meets certain criteria and it has been certified as real and trustable and can take a further regulation like that, then it takes the trust up in the ecosystem of digital media. And it applies to all ecosystems that we have built in market. So do not see regulation, we do not see regulation as a constraint. We work with the governments to bring out regulations that can really increase the trust in the ecosystems. That's the regulation part. Let's come to the speed of changes. Again, first year, right? Have you heard of Little's law? What does it say? L equals lambda W. What is it? Number of items in the inventory. Lambda is equal to arrival rate, and W is how much time the product stays in the business. Why was specifying Little's law? Let's take an example of byte coding. Byte coding, right? Everybody is a developer right now. Everybody can develop apps. So the arrival rate of apps now increases exponentially, right? While if you do not change W factor within the system, and W factor remains the same, then your inventory is going to explode. Similarly, with the coming in of AI, a lot of new it is changing the arrival rate of content, not only code, but also digital media content for jobs. The arrival rate is increasing, but the W factor is not. We also have to take care of the W factor. We have to, what is the W factor? It could be, if you're talking about digital, if you're talking about software, equals to search. The W factor is basically the human group of codes. From the operations, the red tape that is involved in getting the code to the market. those kind of things. So what we're working towards is not only making sure that we generate content with AI, but also making sure that the business transformation cannot percolates into every aspect of the ecosystem, so that everything becomes fast and transformed, so that the whole ecosystem works properly. Otherwise, Reddit's law is going to kill you. And that is a huge conversation that we have with almost all C-level executives. There's a lot of changes happening. Do not have AI-related investments into narrow parallel, goals. And you know what? I just want to increase the throughput of my pocket. I just want to increase the throughput of my software. I just want to increase the throughput of, let's say, video generation from my marketing. Also talk about the rest of the systems that you have, so that the whole ecosystem stays good and remains stable. So that is a conversation that we are having with almost all of the organizations. Also, the nature of jobs are changing. We are now insisting on a T model, which is having breadth in your knowledge and depth probably in one field. Breadth knowledge is becoming much more important. So, for example, me as an individual in sales, with the coming in of AI, I can write contract in probably minutes and create content in minutes. The moment I step into a room where stakeholders are present, AI is not going to help me close the deal. I have to read the room. I have to understand the politics in the room. I have to understand what they're thinking. I have to understand the meaning behind the silence of a gatekeeper or a decision maker. Right? That is always going to be remaining a human fact. And those are soft skills that we have to master. Soft skills are becoming harder because mundane work is done by AI. So you as students try to develop your soft skills a lot better, because that is what is going to define you in the future.
So thanks Anshuman for your wonderful presentation. We really loved the videos you showed. And so now I would like to invite Professor Moria sir to felicitate Anshuman.
I wanted to show one last thing. So Professor Kunal had mentioned that what we wanted to have industry connects with people. I have a small QR code that you can scan. That will, what I promised you is, the QR code is going to gather your name and email addresses. And I'm going to share certifications that you can do from Google that will help you with your AI journey, number one. And we're going to do a lot of hackathons that is going to help you not only bring up your skills, but also get connected with like-minded people around you and also industry. So there is a small QR code that I wanted to show. If you have a phone, scan it, and we will take it from there. This is the QR code. If you have a phone, scan. It is going to take you to a form, fill it, and I promise you I'll get back to you. Someone can take a picture and they can share it later on. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll hold it for 10 more seconds. There. There. 6, 5. Thank you for watching.
not something that how to build the right hand microeconomic. AI now it's a notebook LM. Sure. Much more. Perspective. Yeah. Because otherwise it's back to the basics.
Analyst represents the enterprise and governance side of AI. So Chakravarti from Visa works in environments where data, trust, regulation, and scale matter deeply. His experience highlights how valuable AI and analytics are used responsibly in large organizations, offering valuable learning for students interested in analytics, strategy, risk, and decision intelligence. So the floor.
So I think what I do, I will start with that. That should give some context. So I did data science and applied AI in IIM Visa. Before that, I have been doing the exact analytics applied AI teams in Flipkart for 6 years. And 70% of my time, 70-80% of my career, I think the discussions that I have been largely revolving around is models, right? I mean, what is a strong model, regression, classification, and all those things. And then LLM came in, what kind of models do we use? But eventually, over the last couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, what the realization that is sinking in is that in across different organizations that I have been part of, is that scaling in order to get the value from AI, it's more of a leadership problem, and it's a leadership rather than to deal with any kind of tech models or anything. So that's what we will talk about, and then we will talk about how exactly or where exactly to be using AI, Gen AI, agentic AI to create the value, and what future AI leaders must learn to succeed. So the first thing that I just wanted to start off is we put a lot of time around models, what model to be using, and when you are also, some of you have been part of like first year, second year, MBA analytics guys are there. And we take so much of the problem solving piece gives us so much of kick that hey, there is data, we will be able to do the predictions. But the realization that is coming in terms of scaling is that prediction is very good, great, but unless you are able to, the organizations are able to use those predictions to make decisions, something that Anshuman had been talking about, right? How exactly in the new era of AI, the key field is, it is about how exactly to make decisions. For an example, let's say you are creating a very basic churn model. Great, you are able to find out which customers are able to churn. But unless we are able to very clear that what are we going to make with these predictions, are we going to give coupons to everybody, or are we going to give coupons to identify people who are price sensitive, how do we identify price sensitive? If we are not able to get the kind of goodness that we expected, what is our fallback? So unless that entire circle is completed, the scaling AI will always face blockers. So the key part is we should not think AI as a model. It's more of a decision infrastructure, or where it is more about making business decisions. And in the process of making business decisions, things to keep in mind for every AI leader is, and we get these budgets, which are what is a latency budget. In Flipkart and in e-commerce companies, we deal with a recommendation model, search model. Any small AI changes is likely to increase the latency, the search query latency, or the recommendation page load time. So we do have to take care of a lot of things regarding what is a latency budget, what is a model cost budget, and yeah, whatever. What is the latency budget? What is the model cost budget? And what is the impact on the customer NPS? Correct. So if you look at all of these things, making decisions, taking care of how exactly the customer experience will be, how exactly the speed, latency, how the cost will increase. All these are choices that a leader has to do. It's not a tech problem really. And that's why in the era of, if you think about scaling AI, it's a leadership problem, or it's a leaders that needs to decide on accountability, needs to make these decisions, put the guardrails, that how we will get the true business value from our ML problem. So the journey should be creating value by in terms of some of the revenues, the PNL, what you talk about revenue, cost, or NPS. How are we able to assign a dollar value associated with any AI project? And that is the choice that a leader has to kind of drive the organizations with. And to be honest, there are companies like Big Seven, Microsoft, Google, but there are hundreds of companies which are not able to do that well, correct? And that's why we see this is a widespread problem of failing AI projects, where you will see that these choices, people think that model, latest LLM model, agentic use POC we have done, and the model kind of we have implemented AI. But unless we are able to realize the dollar value and make the kind of choices, it's not going to be okay. Few areas where this is more about as a leader, where you are making the choice of choosing AI projects. So there are two kinds of AI projects that are emerging. One kind of AI projects is individual productivity improvement, right? And this is where I think you mentioned about vibe coding. A lot of in our organizations or in different organizations, where exactly vibe coding is used, it is used for an improvement of individual productivity. For an example, PM wants to do some rapid prototyping, right? They would basically be, or the operations guy on his daily work, he wants to get done his work quickly, right? He will use probably, but from a any kinds of a big scaled AI projects, so far vibe coding, no codings are not so much used. So what exactly are we using, or how do we choose them? What kind of projects to be used for scaling? Really, any projects that are if you look at the examples in e-commerce world, search, personalization, pricing, ads, all these are related to PNL. So any projects that will give us a direct levers on around money or customer trust are the right kind of projects to choose for scaling. Right? And similarly on the payments world, there are two in Visa we have two kinds of projects in AI. One, more around the payment fraud, identifying how exactly the identifying where exactly which are fraudulent transactions, which kind of transactions should we go through. But on the other side, we also are trying to build over the payment infra applied services. For an example, using the payment descriptions, when you are swiping your card using the what you were purchasing, we will provide an allied service to banks that these are these kind of customers you are able to, this is the markets that they purchase from, this is what they purchase from, and this is where you can get target fee. Now, this used to be an analytics work. Now, if you see, because it's directly related to money, but at the same time, it can actually improve our overall, we can get more bankers as a client or banks as a clients by selling this intelligence. So what we are doing is we are bringing in agentic AI in terms of automating the extraction part of the data, deriving the insights, bringing in human in the loop, in the overall logic that is this the right kind of an insight and then putting that. So as an AI leader, while the discipline about thinking decisions is very important, it is also important in terms of choosing the right kind of projects which can give you the ROI. If there is no PNL, then that might not be the right kind of projects to go through. To take it. If you see why the AI projects typically fail, it's one not really algorithmic. For an example, if you really see POCs are very successful. We do a notebook, develop app models, and we data scientists, everybody, I myself, to claim also that we develop models quickly, it works. But 10-15% models, finally notebook models finally see the light in terms of production. If you see why, the reason is as a data scientist or as an analytics professional, we don't focus on product thinking. And what does that mean is that we always get fascinated by the data, what models to be used, but not what is the consumer problem that we are solving for. As a result of that, for an example, just to give you an example, we were building a recommendation model and the recommendation model was already there. And we were asked by the leadership in terms of let's make the recommendation model more personalized. So, and this question is vague. So, make the recommendation model personalized. How do we break it to whom? To a particular segment or to every individual? If we are trying to make it for a particular segment, what kind of latency are we bringing in? What kind of choices that we have to do? If vis-a-vis if we are doing at an individual level, what is the choices that we have to make? So if those are not taken care of in the POC phase itself, when we are developing our training data, there is a high chance that our models will not go through in production, the A/B test will come negative, and we will eventually have to go through the same cycle. So my suggestions to all of you as you get into building AI in different organizations is don't take POC as a just casual experimentation, but as a step one of building a full-fledged product. And if that thinking is what that means is collecting all those informations and assumptions, and then if you are trying to build, you will be better off in terms of developing the products. This is the first thing, and this is the some way I find this is the same piece Anshuman has been also talking about. This is mostly and very funny that most of the organization, most of the job openings, you are still finding a lot of job openings around building Power BI dashboards, running SQL queries, and so on and so forth. But where organizations in the AI era, 5 years down the line, not really, those jobs are likely to not exist. We have, Anshuman I was just hoping that we can also show natural language to SQL query. It's like very simple right now. You will type your questions, executive will eventually get the answer. So the dashboarding skill, those Power BIs and these Tableau skills that we have built over the years, they are completely changing.
It's people are looking for a conversational BI. People will ask questions, they will get answers. So in this era, where exactly the power comes from? The power comes from decide and learn. The differentiation mode is in what is the decision as a leader, and that's why as a leader the key point of intervention is we have everything that we need. How do we figure out what will we do with that, and using the outcome of decision to as a feedback loop. And that is also a missing part in the overall journey, because if you don't make that the feedback loop back to the system on for which kind of customers. So in our days in Flipkart, what we used to do, we used to have a certain user segments. For an example, we want to observe user segments by geo, we want to observe segments by demographic, and we will eventually try to see what is the conversion improvement happening at a different segments. And if it goes below a particular thresholds, we will bring that insight as a reinforcement to the overall learning algorithms, right? And so that loop is very important. And as a leader, if we want to create differentiation via data and via AI, important piece is feeding this learning loop into the input of the system. Finally, I think I'll not take too much time. I know we'll kind of try to wrap it up. The responsible AI, whenever I talk to the young generation, I mean my team and everyone has a there is a lack of understanding of what responsible AI. It just feels like too much of regulator or too much of bookish words. There is a lack of appreciation that what we are trying to achieve as a leader in AI world through responsible AI is a growth enablement. What is it trying to do? It is trying to build in trust in the entire ecosystem. When I say trust, it means that we are trying to ensure that with the help of AI, we don't run in the problem of not being fair to anybody. And that is very normal. For an example, if in case of Visa, if we are trying to identify fraudulent and non-fraudulent transaction, and if we are trying to feed back that learning in the loop, it is always going to be a survival of the fittest, which means that a particular kind of transactions, a particular kind of users will always get blocked, and that pattern will fit in. How do we prevent that from happening? I mean, same thing if you think about banks giving loans. If they decide that what kind of customers will get loans, it will always feed in that hey, people who are only rich are getting loans, and those who are really need that, they are not getting that. Right? So these are problems that we see, and in the AI world, how do we handle that fairness? How do we handle that is something that a leader has to be very, very aware of. And in that case, how we do is, as an organization, we decided that we can't be fair to every segment of audience. We put that as a part of product requirement itself when we are developing an AI product, that it needs to be fair for these demographic and behavioral segments. And we create metrics around, or the entire system is built around. Say, if just giving an example, if females and males we really care to be fair about it, we will create separate observability framework in the AI system itself, that the conversion or the fraud, all these numbers are in the range for the segments that we care about. So that building that observability in the segment to identify fairness is something that we really care, and that's why we put that as a part of product requirement. So all of these similarly, in terms of explainability and safety, this is more about when we are building AI systems, we should always assume right now the assumption is that AI will do everything for us. But the null hypothesis should be, while we see the amazing advancement that AI is doing, null hypothesis should be the AI is wrong. right? AI is going to get wrong. So if we build products thinking that AI is going to get wrong, and as a result of that, sorry, if we think about AI is going to get wrong and we build products assuming what are the fallbacks for AI going wrong, we will build better products. We will come up with better guardrails. So that is why an ideal agentic system when we build is never fully automated. You will see that there are routers we are putting in lot of rules. So it's always we are putting in human in the loop. So as a product managed and as a development of AI products, we really have to interact very closely with product managers in order to identify what are the areas where humans should come in, where the rules should set in, where there are point of failures, so that we can handle that gracefully. And that's something that becomes a growth enabler for any sort of an AI products. So the key message that I want to drive over here is responsible AI is not a formality. It's building trust across the ecosystem to the stakeholders, to team, to customers is actually an enabler for growth rather than a ticking of we have done. Right? That's what we should be looking forward for. Yeah. I'll not spend much time on this side, but it's more about to show. The question I get often is more about: do we really is the traditional AI dead? When to use Gen AI? When to use agentic AI? And this is more of a framework that you can think about. Again, there are different ways of looking at it. But if you look at on the one side, I talked about in the earlier place that hey, where there is a lot at stake from a dollar value is at stake, we should go and building an AI. But if you see that wherever there are dollar values at stake, we cannot also go fully AI. We build in rules, MLs, agentic AI, human in the loop, because when things are at high stakes are there, the cost of error is very high. We should be having human more involved in the overall process flow rather than completely automating it. Whereas when it goes from a productivity point of view, we can look for a Copilot sort of things which will do things automatically. Final point before we end this discussions is, and this is, I'm still struggling to honestly find a solution for this. We haven't done in the organizations that we have worked, we haven't done a very good job of that. But you will see that in an e-commerce company or in a visa company which are at enterprise scales, there are extremely siloed team operating on a functional area. In e-commerce, we had a search and discovery, another team which is an ads and monetization, another team which is pricing and promotions. And when the PMs or when the data scientists pretty much deal with the AI in this area, they are very, very passionate about the metrics because the OKRs and the responsibilities are around the functional metrics. Correct? And we really start hearing about functional metrics. For example, what is the search CTR that will happen? Or what is the search CTR conversions will happen? We also look at, let's say, what is the ads ROAS will happen. But the collaboration between this functional area is often ignored during the product deployment phase, or even I actually say that product thinking phase. That what are the dependent systems, how exactly the customers will eventually perceive. So the lens, taking a step back, we all know this, but as you guys are getting into a role like AI product management or an AI engineer role, taking a step back to really identify when you are building an AI system, not for your functional area, but what it means to the overall customer, what are the dependent functional areas, and eventually come up with a single North Star that we talked about. And what North Star matrix is non-compromisable. If this goes down, we can't make this product live. Because this is so many functions are dependent on that. That's a great way to exhibit this systems thinking. And I think he was mentioning about that the excellence is non-linear, correct? And there are very few organizations are able to exhibit, and very few individuals are able to exhibit this systems thinking, which is about thinking everything all together rather than in silo. And those individuals and those organizations eventually will succeed in the AI first world. So as a future AI leaders, just to summarize, will be not judged on models, but based on the behavior they kind of decide, which is firstly to start with system thinking, which is identifying what it means for other teams. The second is how exactly, what kind of metrics do we really need to care about for all the different parts of the systems. Thirdly, how can we ensure in a high trade-off or a high cost of error situations, what are the guardrails or what are the rules we can incorporate to ensure it does not fully get automated or it does not cause financial damage to the organization. And finally, taking the accountability and taking this point that if the AI breaks, he was referring to, we can't say system takes the ownership, right? It will, who will be owner? And that ownership or stewardship is very, very important as we become the AI leaders. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks also for the brief presentation. In the interest of time, we'd like to take only one question. Rest you can mail to us.
So we all know that AI lacks emotions, and Visa, as we all know that it has to very much work on trust. It has to win the trust of people. How does AI help Visa to actually win trust and gather trust? It's very much about problem and
Got it. You know, yeah, Visa is one of the companies that I was surprised. It doesn't use any cloud infrastructure. It does not have Azure, AWS, no cloud. And so the, as I was referring in the first slide, that in the era of the AI, scaling AI is more of a leadership call. We took that call and we continue to take that call of not moving to cloud is because we prioritize user trust, user predictability a lot more. We believe, for an example, when you are using a cloud system, when the traffic scales up, it takes 5, 10, 20 milliseconds for the infra to kind of scale up. But in that time period, our payment can get blocked or payment can eventually does not happen. We can't afford that. So we prefer reliability over cost benefit. And this is just one of the examples on how we maintain user trust. But to tell you at every stage, you might call that we are little conservative. With every stage, the key North Star that I was talking about, what it does impact for our trust. Because if we break the trust, people will switch to other methods overall. Just to give another example, so we were building the, if you really know this, identifying this fraud or not fraud, correct? Now, unless we are, when we make any changes live in our visa system, these fraudulent transactions, we figure out at every stage what is the trade-off, how many customers are false declines, and if there is a, what is the cost of false decline? How many customers will actually churn out because of false decline? So those pilots that or those experimentations that we do during the A/B phase is critical to ensure that the user trust is taken care of even from the very beginning of the product requirement to actually before deploying the solutions.
Thank you, sir, for explaining how dashboards inform by decision scale or impact. I think that was very important, and also about the importance of responsible AI and how it's the need of AI. So, Vaibhav sir, would like to invite Vaibhav sir to felicitate Utsav sir.
earlier. But the system thinking is something I've been keyed on to for a long time. Okay.
Thanks, Doug. I would like to invite Professor Saptarshi on this podium to take the mic. I think Saptarshi Professor actually has a very human-centered design perspective to the panel. And he's an assistant professor at IIM and he's the co-founder of ERNA. His work focuses entirely on design thinking, visual communication, and socio-cultural sustainability, reminding us that even the most advanced AI solutions must remain people-centric. So
hello everyone. Yeah, so thanks for your nice introduction. I'll also introduce myself a little bit more about myself, what I do. I'm coming from IIT Roorkee, and there will be a little difference of pedagogy thought of what IIT Roorkee does and what I will do. Because our system of we cater to our bigger target audience is the BTech students. So we are at the starting from the bottom of the pyramid after the schooling. So which is what in the school, some of you might aspire for being into the tech domain, and I think will be one of your interview. And then in IIM and even I teach in Department of Design, where our major target audience is aimed as. There, the master students will be our major target audience. So they are already focused into one particular direction. So there they might be going for looking forward to be industry ready, but not always in that is the case in terms of UG student. We need to cater to the much larger target audience of society. So where somebody will be part of the industry, somebody will innovate, somebody will show the path in terms of society and other dimension. So I am part of Department of Architecture and Planning and also Department of Design as a joint faculty. My domain is UI UX and visual cognition design. So I do work with eye trackers. So it talks about where is the visual fixation point and why people are taking a particular decision, whether they are actually looking at that particular point and taking a decision. Right, so a lot of visual design, painting, analysis of colors, and repositioning the workflows and everything. That is my core work, and that is the work we do in our lab. Now, looking at it, when we question where industry, where AI will fit into design. So I'll give a little bit of background of where design comes from. Few of you who are masters definitely know what design. When I was studying architecture and then went to Auto University and looked at design as the domain, it was very vague. So what designers do, what engineers do. If you look at the little bit of history, and I'll give you a spectrum of what the society changed. First, we know about Renaissance, like European Renaissance. So, what happened there during the Renaissance and Western Eastern Renaissance are a little different time frame. But that time, the pure science, if you take the roots to engineering, pure science, there was also art, literature, and other things evolved. So that is the origin of knowledge in pure science. After that, if you look at Renaissance was a precursor to first industrial revolution, right? So because of the Renaissance knowledge, it translated into engineering. And that is industrial revolution where factory and mass production and everything started coming up. Now, if you look at engineering, they will think that I'm creating a nice product and people has to adopt to it. Right. Now, what design does, design bridges the engineering to society. So what designers will think, design is a very new field right now. So right now, if you look at industrial revolution and then now the design team is coming up. So designers will look at user doesn't need to fit into doesn't need to fit into the engineering. The engineering product has to help user to use it more in a better way. For example, if you look at earlier, the cars you need to actually learn driving, and there's a lot of cognitive load. Now the automated cars, automatic gears, and now there is driverless cars, right? So it's much more easier. If you look at also the applications like Photoshop and those kind of applications which we designed earlier, there were a lot of buttons and everything, and we need to learn it. So that was the notion, and the applications were designed like that. Now, if you look at the all these tools which designers and architects in our lab we use, they became much easier to learn. So the cognitive load of users are reduced. So that is what designers do. They are bridging the gap between what engineering marvel is and making it much accessible and easier for different part of the society. It can be different, there can be different people in different martial hierarchy or social need, and designers will reach that. Now, what we do in our lab is, this is definitely an AI generated image, right? And of course, we can say that right now the gap between what is AI generated and what is not AI generated is becoming lesser, but still there is a little bit of gap. And as a researcher, we come from a research institute, we always wear that black hat and we are a little negative in thought and we always think that it can be a little better. So as an architect, everybody can see this is AI generated because this is somewhat fake and it cannot be used. From outside, it looks beautiful, but what it cannot think like an architect, and it cannot incorporate services. So if you give this image to an architect and ask him to build it, it is not optimized in terms of material, in terms of services, in terms of everything. So there has to be something which AI has to do. So I'm not going to this AI history and everything. So, but what we looked at from the perspective of again, going back to industrial revolution, when we study about the first industrial revolution, which happened in Europe, it had two schools of thought. One was against the machine, and then another was for the machine movement. If you were studying in design history, you will know. So that two school of thought, one opposed the new innovation, and one went in favor of new innovation. But if you look at history, wherever there is a great innovation, it will stay with us. And so one part of the designer will make the tool better, and another part of the design thinking which will reorient our skills. So of course we do have brain. So we need to apply our brain also. When AI has its own brain, but we need to then think how do we position ourselves and how we can use the tool better and where we can channelize our pedagogy. So when we are making architects, we are making designers. So they are not redesigning or doing something which AI can already do. They will have to be doing something which AI cannot do, and it should be a tool for them. And then, of course, we are making the tool better and better. So, okay, so I will not go into detail of what other AI tools we are using and what different AI tools are there. They are better person, and some of you know definitely better than what we are doing right now. I'll tell you one. So these are the different AI models we are using in our lab. So I would like to just tell you why we are using AI in our visual design team. And I'll start with a failure story. So initially what we started thinking is, so our team is a visual design lab and we try to understand what Indian visual styles and Indian knowledge systems are. So we started questioning if AI is designing, what happens to our Indian knowledge system? So which the knowledge which is not yet there doesn't have a digital footprint. So if AI is learning from something which is already there and already accessible, what happens to this knowledge? For example, there is Kathpuni architecture, which is local traditional architecture of Uttarakhand, which is not yet documented. So that is not even there in the digital space. So AI will never learn from, right? And if we are completely dependent on AI, that knowledge system of our traditional knowledge will completely be wiped out, right? And then designers are using AI, and that knowledge will die with our local traditions. Now, whether it should die or should not, that is again a question. But at least as a responsible citizen, we can bring that knowledge into digital system, or we can try something to maintain it, right? So we started with classifying different Indian craft and trying to create a knowledge repository and knowledge dissemination system. So we thought that we'll take images of different art and craft products, and then if somebody clicks a photo and asks that whether it is this particular craft, it will say that yes it is, or yes it or it is not. So there is binary answer. So we started with Dokra, which is a lost wax casting process. And what it was doing is we are putting any other different kind of metal, and it was saying that this is 60% Dokra. We don't want it, right? This has to be either Dokra or not. So it cannot look at some metallic shine and tell that this is 60% Dokra. Now we then start thinking how we as a designer think that this is Dokra, this is something else, this is the Nepa or Hanka kind of style, different kind of statue, right? So then we started thinking we need to bring that knowledge, which is yet not there, and we need to train it, think like us as a designer. So from there, this is the paper we have published in IIM, which is with Springer. We started mapping our architectural students' journey, starting from pre-design stage, the research stage, to schematic design stage, to design development stage, to construction, which is something similar to our dynamic method of design thinking. And which AI tools helps us, and where there is a gap where we can add our knowledge. Now these are some AI tools our student use. I'm not an engineer, so please don't ask me about this. So I'm just showing it. And from there, so this is the paper which I was showing that, which is in Springer Nature, where artificial education in the age of artificial intelligence can position itself. So it talks about the tool, which tools we need to use and how we have to rethink about our syllabus. And recently we did incorporate NEP in our syllabus and restructured it. So this was starting with a classroom exercise, and then we published a paper, and it was actually helping us to restructure our syllabus. And we did incorporate AIML and other things even in design classes, and how it is going to help. So that was one part, and the second part, what we try to do is in create an algorithm for Kathpuni architecture, which is patented right now. And what we were looking at in this design is again what to bring that in the Indian knowledge system and letting it think like an architect. So what initially what we started with this Midjourney and other kind of AI tool, we asked to create a Kathpuni architecture. It created something to Kathpuni architecture. I think you know that, which will have stone and wood. So stone will take the compressive load, and wood will give that little bit disjoint so that there is during earthquake, it will balance. Right, so that is how it is layering in that way. Now, it was thinking in terms of 2D, it was thinking in terms of image. We wanted to think in terms of 3D. So what is there in the space? So that is our little incremental change, but I think that small incremental change does help to our domain specific knowledge, where then can fit into a bigger knowledge pool and create a creation of knowledge. I'll just show a small video of this particular project which we did, and right now it is it. The video will explain the process. We use generative AI and non-generative AI to create that, and it was thinking in terms of 3D spatial, not in terms of image. And that was what is this becoming a tool for an architect to think in terms of the space. And some of the AI which the students were using to create a mood board of design, and we thought that the same process where can be extrapolated to think in terms of 3D. So when you are thinking creating a facade, instead of creating a facade, we are creating the three-dimensional space and helping the students to think in terms of integrating services space and how the juxtaposition of other rooms will be. So this explains the same process, and I'm not going into detail. And same process which we are trying to follow in terms of the previous project which we started with a failure story. And I do work with eye trackers, so where the fixation points are. Based on the fixation point, and we are trying to set the criteria in a particular art. Just look at these things and try to segregate that this is the particular art or not. So that is how we are looking at the previous project, which we kind of left in between. We don't know whether we'll be succeeding or not, but our lab, which is the Visual Cognition Design Lab in IIT Delhi, we do look at the traditional knowledge system of Indian art and trying to put it in the digital space, because I believe that we all know that when there is this is fourth industrial revolution, so all this industrial revolution which gave us something will stay with us, and we need to maneuver ourselves to best use our new tool and base our knowledge and with the traditional knowledge system which we already have. So thank you. So that's from my side.
Thank you. Thank you, Saptarshi sir, for your wonderful presentation. In interest of time, again, we'll take one more question. Yeah. Yeah, in the back.
So as AI systems become more capable, we will see the decision making shifting from leaders to the processes and systems. So how should future managers prepare for that shift?
I'm not from management background, but I will take the question in a little generic way. See, if we give machine to take majority of the decision, that's not a good thing. I'll give an example of research. I think you will be able to connect. Now, a lot of review papers are written through a lot of AI. So, review papers, like the research paper where we collect the knowledge. So, it is also a big, the knowledge can be a big data, right? So, you're thinking about what kind of research has been done on design based on a particular tool, right? So, you collect all the data, AI can help. Now you can exclude, so there is an inclusion and exclusion criteria. Exclude some data, maybe you are not looking for medical related research, so you exclude that data. Agro related, you may exclude. Design related data you are taking. Now based on that, then you can also ask this large language model, you can ask that what is the abstract of that research paper. You can ask and write questions, it can tell you that Google notice like that. Now you need to think that what questions you are asking and how that answers are binding together and decision making comes there. So you cannot ask random question and then your research paper will give you nothing. So if you are not taking the decision making and still generating the set of question also through AI, then the knowledge will not bind to anything because AI mostly is learning from what is existing. So you are not creating something new. So that is where it should be a tool, in my opinion, and it should be the humans should be the masters. The tool should be always the slave. Yeah.
So really is the era of agentic commerce that we are talking about, where the entire will be more of a conversational or agentic personal finance and all these. So we are talking about the app experience is going to change it into an agentic experience. How does the design thinking comes into picture in terms of enabling the post-app world or the agentic world really?
This is a very good question. I was thinking to ask you this question because you were talking about that almost the AI can say that. And this is a great question, and we do ask this question to the students, and we had a conversation with that. And I don't have a direct answer. They can be two different directions. So if we look at the little bit pre-AI time, so designers, a lot of apps are what? They are replacement of human, right? So earlier we used to book ticket, and there was a time when we need to go to, there was a queue in IIT, Kanpur, I was a student, and we used to stand in front of ISNC office and book. And then it becomes digital, so app have taken space. But when you look at the digital experience, so to reduce the manpower, sometimes you need to press this button for English, press this button for this, press this button for all this. And then a person comes if that is not solving you the issue. But when in this process of experience, you always feel that if there is a person, it would have been better. So the moment you are keeping away the design, the users away from the person, they will start thinking that company is not giving me enough importance. I want to speak to that person. So they think that a human can solve that problem much better. But actually somebody is hearing the problem, not the machine. Now, if you look at the chatbot and AI, always there will be that purple, pink colored AI chatbot. Whether that is giving a more trust that AI is solving my problem or human is solving my problem, that is a question. And maybe that Google Analytics and other thing is whether they are clicking on the chatbot, they are leaving, or what is the funnel analysis, whether they are actually engaging with that we don't know. And this might be like we need to do more study whether people think that AI can solve better or human can solve better. That is a perception, and what kind of application it is. People generally don't trust with like finance. That is a very risky thing. But if it is something like social media, I would love to talk to an AI. But if it is like something my money or something which is very higher risk is involved, like flight booking or something which is risky, I think I may not. It's again user-centric design, which is I cannot say on my behalf. There has to be a research and then we can talk about it. But it depends on what kind of product we are talking about.
For an example, we are saying that Flipkart's, let's say the typical e-commerce apps will go away.
Yeah.
The OpenAI came up with, and I think other vendors, the agentic e-commerce agent, where you will say that I need a t-shirt, it will give you, I remember you had purchased a red t-shirt from Adidas, these are the thing, what budget do you have, and then the entire experience goes on a conversational way, and eventually it kind of goes through, right?
I think that will be a very positive thing.
But is that a kind of an optimum design experience, or how does that kind of an agentic flow kind of looks like in a design world, or how would you think about?
That is very much in like whenever AI is taking off the user's cognitive load, users love it. Like it is suggesting what you can do, they will really love it. But when they're in a complaining mode, I want to talk to a person, then you give an AI, they won't love it. So that might be again.
I think suggestion of what one person can do, OGT designing it.
Yeah, they will like it.
Then start, yeah.
Well, I think
Really
like
receptive of it, but when it comes to consumer complaining behavior, they want to give it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of search on this, specifically in consumer behavior domain, that when does a human comes in, specifically.
so let me because it's such an awesome question. I'll split into two and very briefly explain. The world is going to be filled with machine talking to machine, which means in agentic commerce, like what he just said, it's a machine acting on your behalf, talking to, let's say, Amazon, which is also a machine. So that interface, you don't have to see. And they are optimizing for, they may not even speak in natural language at all. Like it can be complete gibberish, which we don't understand. That is machine speaking to machine, and there is an entire UX field which is working towards how do you make that better in the least tokens, highest reliability. The other part which we see, which is what we are talking about, and like so much research, and would love to chat about LoRa fine tuning, is about generative UX. So, and what you said, ChatGPT today has a chat box, but now it has, it has a few boxes where you can now shop. It will open up links. This is just the start of it. Generative UX is the stream where, based on your mood, based on your intent, the entire UX will change on the fly. So now if you say, let's say I am very sad, and if I can understand in that mood, everything changes. The flow changes, the interface changes, the colors change, the language changes.
Adaptive.
Completely adaptive, right? Because the UX, the AI can generate it for you. And that is what we call as a paradigm shift in terms of now in this, the design principles that the professor was talking about still hold you. If you get it wrong, you will now get it wrong catastrophically bad. So that's what's going to happen. And that's how it's split. And we keep getting concerned, like we keep talking about Figma's evolution, Canva's evolution, but generative UX is going to change everything. Like for every person, the same app, same experience will look completely different on the fly.
Thank you, Professor Saptarshi. I genuinely feel like AI is just between intent and back, and I think that was a very practical line that you mentioned there. And also the fact how designing and training with AI can make very, very impactful decisions for everybody. So now I would just like Gargi ma'am to facilitate so please. Thank you everybody for waiting so patiently. We were actually not able to wait for 10 minutes. And I would like if you all come back to the same place in 10 minutes, we have some refreshments arranged for you all. I would request all our guests to first.
Right.
We have one time, please. Thank you. So it's a privilege to invite Professor Vaibhav Maurya to moderate our panel discussion. Vaibhav Maurya, sir, is a fellow of the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and he serves as a faculty and area chairperson of economics here at IIM Kashipur. Sir's academic and professional journey spans over a decade, and he's got significant teaching and research experience across multiple institutions, including IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Indore, and IIM Kashipur. And it's absolutely a privilege to have him moderating this panel.
Hi guys, so welcome to the fishbowl session, and you already have introduction of all the guests. So it's a great privilege for me to host the luminaries, as Professor Ganguly had called them. I think so. After their presentations, what we know about them is not just luminaries; they are people who are able to traverse from the highest level of thinking to the simplest of ways of communicating. And I think so. That's a great thing. So I think so. Let's start with the fishbowl then. So we're going to pick up a chat and let's see what question comes here. And then we'll just let one of them choose who starts. And then, the others will join in. So I have the first chat with me. It's from ethics, data and governance. What we were talking about, I think so the most difficult one. And so this is like, is there unavoidable trade-off between data privacy and AI innovation? Or can organizations achieve both? So I'll just repeat for the benefit of the audience. Is there an unavoidable trade-off between data privacy and AI innovation, or can organizations achieve both? Yeah. So over to Anshuman.
Thank you, sir. I'll share an observation that we have had with yeah. So I'll share an observation that we have had speaking with customers. When you have privacy in a service or application, and you tell customers that, hey, you know what, I have this is an app from Google, it has a lot of privacy. People don't celebrate. People are dissatisfied when privacy is not there. When they get to know that privacy is not there. So the question, the dichotomy, can both of them exist? Is probably the wrong way to look at it. Having privacy in a service or application is a given. You have to have it in today's world. The question is, in the world of AI, how do you serve that privacy with that particular scale? If I were to speak about Google, what we are doing is we've developed AI models that can now run on your phone. You don't need to upload your data to Google. This small, very lightweight models will go on the phone. They will analyze your data without your pictures or your data ever leaving your phone to the cloud. What it sends to the cloud is probably some weights and balances. This mathematical equations which develop some weights and balances, which give you crowd knowledge of the cloud, not the personal identifiable knowledge. And that goes to the cloud, and you go ahead and develop whatever needs to be computed on the cloud. Only takes into account those mathematical weights and balances, not really personally identifiable information. That's how we have started implementing it. It's a transition, of course. But yeah, can they exist? They have to exist together. Otherwise, people don't accept your solution.
I can just briefly add a little bit, right? So my position is exactly what Anshuman said. And I will distill it to how I feel about it. This conversation requires nuance in the sense that if you go extreme into the sense that privacy is everything, then it means any interaction you have with any other human and you say I like this, you have lost some amount of privacy. In the truest sense, privacy means living absolutely alone and not communicating with anything and anyone. Then you are truly private with your own mind. Whenever you want something of value, you have to communicate it. That exchange is a willing transparent, and a well defined, acceptable exchange is what he's doing about, right? And what he spoke about. I am not comfortable that my data goes outside my phone. Then you have to deploy a small language model on your phone. You have something called as a federated learning, which is exactly that. Like you, that data, let's say you're NASA, you are our armed forces. Like I had done a project proposal for our armed forces once, and it was literally like they're trying to build a supply chain. That data cannot leave that desktop, right? Forget like cloud, like similar to what we spoke about it, Visa also doesn't use cloud system. Now, because that is not acceptable. If you want some personalization, then are you comfortable, acceptable to do the trade-off? So that's how I put it, and exactly what Hemendra said.
To add to what both of them are saying, I think one part that we must have to acknowledge as a data scientist, we in our journey we made this mistake a lot of time that more data is better model, more data is great innovation will lead to value. I think the innovation lies in how do we add value with lesser data, and for every incremental data we clearly identify why do we think that this incremental data is going to help, right? And so creating a lot of friction, one of the way how Visa and how Flipkart kind of tries to handle this is creating the friction or bringing in friction around data access, that you need to raise a request, somebody will figure out really the use case that exists, and then only the customer data will come. So that the inherent innovation culture means how do we, in a constrained environment, how do we kind of try to bring in AI innovations or models with lesser data. That's point number one. The point number two is in terms of it is very important also that as an organization, and some of you will work probably in smaller startups and everywhere, but and you have seen how exactly the Indian startups in some of the issues that we have seen. It is very important that as an organization, as a leader, to really call out what is our stand very loud and clear, what data is that we are allowed to make private, and what data we will bring in friction, right? And if that is clear, what that helps is that it reduces the ambiguity around data access, and it really speeds up the scale of AI, because I have seen in the reality is we do POCs because somebody in the team has access of some data that he shouldn't have or he only has. We build models, and when we are trying to scale, we see that, hey, this is not publicly allowed by the compliance team. In order to avoid that, it's very important that we put it as part of organizational mandate on what data is allowed. And the product manager itself or the data science manager, they kind of put it inside the product requirement part of that as well. Then the development phase, development to eventually deployment cycle really slows down. Yeah, that's what I got.
Very interesting question, and there is very interesting thoughts, and I do not have a clear binary answer to it, like which has to be done, which cannot has to be done. It's very situational and contextual in nature. And when we give a data and what is the value we are getting back from that, that is also very, very important. So if some company is taking my data, how much personalized experience, how much better experience I'm getting out of it, that is important. And very it's very nuanced in terms of some other cases. So so there is a China model, you might have you all know that this WhatsApp is banned, Google is banned, there's a lot of things are banned. I visited China just before COVID, and I came when COVID started in a conference. So anyway, so then everything was very, very difficult. But they have their own ecosystem. So China made a model which is so anybody is suffering? No, the society is really high tech and everything is fine. Now, if we make our own in-house model, why would you share? So we are dependent on some of the companies, and we have to share the model. But if we can do it, so that is a very different thought process. Now, whatever the geopolitical situation right now, and then we need to also question that how much data really we want to share. And intelligence and everything is there, and if everything government is exposed to many other superpowers, they can do a lot of things with our data, which is shared. And a lot of research data, and we were talking about NASA's data and research data and which direction we were going, they can monitor. And is that a good thing? In some cases, really no. And but can we have a different kind of parallel ecosystem for that? Right now, we are not in that position, but if we have, maybe we would think anything.
Excellent. I think so. The virtue of having, sort of some of our very traditional things, there's this concept called PIC, prior informed consent, or the right to say no. I think so that still holds. And while there's a business side to it, I think so there's a customer side to it, a more social side to it, security side to it that we are also talking about. So with that, we move to the second chat. There's a chat lying at the bottom. I'll pick the one at the bottom this time. Another small one. Let's see what this has on it. Okay, and this is a fairly general question, but yeah. So how do we ensure AI-enabled products remain human-centric, inclusive, accessible?
That is big for Professor.
Yeah, I'll repeat it for once more. So how do we ensure AI-enabled products remain human-centric, inclusive, and accessible?
I think one discussion we were having whether AI centric. Yeah, we are always at the right now. AI sometimes AI hallucinates, it gives fake data right now, but after sometimes it won't. So and everything from a perspective of users like design, it has to be human. Otherwise, users will start rejecting. If something which is machine, it is stupid, it's not giving me the right answer. The moment they understand that, it can be fun if it is a gamified experience. The small application talking about astrology or something. It's fun. We don't believe it. Something which is our life is dependent on, or we want a real answer to it. At that moment, when that bridge is broken, that cannot be done. So whether you want to show that yes, AI is answering your question, or you just want to do it in the back end and give them a right answer, but they need to believe and they need to have the trust. And once the trust is gone in any company, if it is a big company, they can gain the trust back. But if it's a small company, it's gone. So that has to be very human. And now how it has to be human, there are many design theories and design techniques to it, but it definitely has to be very, very human, and it should be very seamless.
I think slightly, Professor, slightly different point of view in terms of the way I think the AI systems probably needs to be human controlled and more of a decision centric rather than a need necessarily be a human centric, because so what is human centric? My understanding may be also shallow, like understanding the user journeys that typically we use to, like, which kind of user we are trying to cater to, what are their pain points. That's what we traditionally used to do in the design. How do they navigate? How do they do? On the decision centric, what I really mean is we should observe that how user make decisions, right? How is today we are talking about making business decisions, how user make a purchase decision, or how a senior stakeholder would probably go for making a business decision. And the AI needs to be a decision centric. But on the other time, to take your point, to extend your point, sir, in terms of ensuring that it does not break, we have to have the human control that will bring the trust factor, that where human in the loop should come in. It can be in the decision centric, but not all the flow needs to be automated. But human can come in and it's only on it should not be, it is not about we are talking to AI, it should not be like talking to a friend. It should be more of, I can trust this person and he can get the job done. So I really don't need to be human centric, is more about creating delight. Here it is more about ensuring that it is trust. So maybe decision centric and human controlled. Is that a probably a way forward? I'm thinking. I mean, maybe sir or others, if you have.
No, I think both are awesome perspectives. I've led this, and now I'm on the other side, and I can totally understand it. It comes back like at a very simple level. I would just say the simplest answer is yes, we have to do it, and we will never be able to do it. Why do I say that? The AI is built from existing data. To start with, just recently the research report came that women trust AI a lot less than men do. Right? If you see the positive sentiment, men have a lot more than women. The reason is, again, the same thing. If you ask an AI to generate an engineer, to generate a story, it is very male centric. Also, because the existing data on which we have built everything itself is also unfair. Now, whatever you try to do, whatever biases from inclusion that you're trying to do, they have existed and they will also forever exist. It is a forever process. And that means that it's all the more important that every decision you do is moving in that right direction and you are not reinforcing bad stereotypes. Stereotypes are inevitable because humans will stereotype everything. But how are you aware of all of that and how are you making progress towards reducing that? So it's a forever journey. It will never end. And I just said like both of those, what Yusuf was talking about, when machines don't need any of this, they'll just decide, I just need a yes, no, very simple things. And what the professor was talking about is, or when I am interacting, I have to decide, don't influence me back. Don't, push things which I'm not comfortable with. All of that. And these are super complicated. So that's how I put it.
Yeah, thank you. I think I took a stab at that question after my session. I think you liked that question, right? I was mentioning about how we are building AI that is able to understand different languages, different dialects, so that more and more people can use it in their personal lives. We at Google have taken some core principles, imbibed some core principles in our AI development. One of those core principles is that the services that we develop should not directly or indirectly hurt a human. And that is something that we will abide by. And that from that statement draws a lot of different sub-principles and sub-decisions through which we design our products or services. For instance, in one of our conversations with a CEO, he was talking about completely revamping how appraisals are done in a company. He wanted the job of the HR or job of the manager to grade an employee on how he or she has performed throughout the year to be completely transferred to an AI. We did not agree to that because when it comes to appraisals, there is a human factor that is important. What emotionally how the employee has been through the year. Did he or she have some problems which are not captured by the parameters that you are entering into the AI? Those are parameters that we humans will have to understand and take into account, which AI cannot make. AI can probably give you guidance on how to have a good conversation with a human that you are appraising. You are an HR, you want to have a difficult conversation with a human. You don't know how to start that conversation. AI can help you there. What statements to give, what statements not to give. But AI should not be making that conversation on your behalf. We've taken those very conscious decisions in our services, and that is the way that we want to go.
On the other side, yeah. So, just to add, or question Anshuman probably is that fully agree on not doing the appraisal on AI's behalf, but at the same time, if we understand in my career or in everybody's career, there are different kinds of managers and there are different biases that managers are running. AI can very well standardize the process in terms of removing those biasness, and at least people can expect more fair judgment from AI than from a manager who is probably not at par, right? What is your opinion on? There can be great, like better than average managers. The AI will perform poorer that, but there can be a lot more managers who are not at par in terms of doing this job and clouded by all the judgments. AI will do a better job in terms of that. So that standardization layer that AI puts in, doesn't it make it better in terms of it being a more decision dependent, AI being used as a decision dependent rather than a human centric design?
So the presence of bias in a human's decision is a human flaw, but the mitigation to that may not be replaced with AI. We have to correct that flaw. The reason is here. I was speaking about the theory of lemons, right? Where if people lose trust in a system, then the whole system collapses. So if the system of management of people through humans, and people lose trust in that because they think everything is done by AI, how do we trust that? There is no scope for human emotions, which is a very human thing. You're managing humans, right? Then if the trust in that system collapses, then that system will not exist anymore. How do we balance that? So yeah, the presence of bias in humans is a human flaw which we should probably strive to remove. But the answer may not be replaced with AI. Well, I understand. So AI here without bias can probably help us give data points which are unbiased. Correct. For a manager to make a decision. Yeah. But probably the end judgment will have to be done by the manager itself.
I'll add one thing. Okay. Just to like this conversation interesting. When we were doing research on psychology and depression, because a lot of things which comes from, we were talking about the mental health of the employee might be. And in that case, they would prefer to talk to people where it doesn't go beyond the person. That person can talk about it. But putting that in a system that I was depressed during that time, and that might not be very trusted. And maybe because of that, like if there's a mental health issue and something, they want to put it in the system maybe and we took it.
Like to put it very plainly, young boy committed suicide, right? Because of OpenAI, then the parents sued OpenAI. And that's what the professor is talking about. It was continuing to encourage that. And that was a big flaw into that same routine. That's what tells us the significant risk of things like these, right? And that's why now, if you see, OpenAI also has age prediction inside of it. It is trying to constantly understand if the person that is talking to the model is at the age, and then it should just stop everything. Right? Because not everyone is ready for everything at that time. And that is something that's extremely important. And that's why regulation, all of this trust. And again, like what someone was saying, if that manager is not good, fire the manager. But if you outsource all of that to AI, and now you make major wrong decisions and some other people's lives are on the line, then the person who's designed the AI has to be responsible. Who deployed it has to be responsible. And if we go down that road, then you will end up with absolute anarchy, because you would not be able to put accountability anywhere. And it has to stop with that person. And the more localized that is, the better, because centralization also amplifies that risk significantly. Right? Let's say you've got driverless cars everywhere. One problem if you hack it, now you've got millions of people at risk. That's why you also decentralize. So decision making is definitely something that of this nature is something that I don't think is going to go to AI, even from a general implementation standpoint, no matter how strong the incentives, because then you will be stuck. Like, who do you blame when something goes wrong?
So excellent. I knew this question had been taken up earlier, but I purposely, sort of, there are two questions on each end, guys. And I purposely took it up because, this domain is one thing which never dries out. And despite I know school kids may have felt a little lost in between when we were answering this question, but guys, you must be prepared. I think so. If you have to go ahead and reach where these guys are, these are the type of stuff, discussions, and sort of logics that you have to deal with and you have to master them. Equally true for our students as well. Yeah. So in the interest of time, there are slides and there are schedules, and sort of we don't want more hassles for everybody. So we'll just come to the last one. And so the last question is actually for the audience, to listen to. These guys are going to answer it. So it's like, you've all worked across different domains, organizations, different phases of AI adoption. And, we are here where we are at the cutting edge of AI. And when we, I have my students come and talk about Gen AI, and we are already talking about AGI coming in and what the future is going to hold. So looking back, what career decisions or skills helped you stay relevant as AI evolved? And, sort of a quick word of advice for the students. So do we start with you and we go this way?
Sure.
Because
I would ask you to
yeah. So the last part.
Should I read it again?
Yeah. So basically, you guys have lived, you guys have experience of different domains and you've seen the AI evolve. And we are at that cusp where we are trying to understand what the future could hold, and we are a little uncertain about it, little or more uncertain about it. So, word of career advice, and what do you think helped you stay relevant through this change?
I will answer this from my domain, and others will definitely have a better answer from their domain. Again, I'll give an example of history, and history always helps us to see what we can do in future, which I do believe. And I am a history guy, and we teach history of design, and then we look at what can happen in the future. So if you look at the first industrial revolution, what we did, which we learned from it, that there are two type of things. One, we skill development along the mass production, and which is the other way, and which we adopt from the new technology. Now, if you look at two typology of, give an example of sari, which is the printed sari, and another is the pattern patola sari, which is the handcraft sari. They have their position, and nobody can actually replace other. So if everything has to be handcrafted, right now with this population, we cannot survive. So then they have to lower the cost of that hand-woven sari, and they have to produce for all, which is not possible. And then, so they have their own journey. So if you want to take a AI-driven solution, you will have your own journey. And if you want to step back and do a traditional way of doing it, meticulous painting, they will have their own journey. So painters who are painting, or designers who are designing from their own, from starting, will not completely be wiped off. Maybe they will have their own different position, and which can diverge completely, and will have a very different set, and that will target different people. If we are mass producing a house which has to be done quickly after a disaster, we need mass production, and quickly it will be done. And if you are designing something which is a very exclusive mansion or something, and there somebody will look like something which is my own personalized design. So mass-produced bags are also there, and a very exclusive Prada or Gucci bag is also there, which is just one. So where AI will not be there. So either way you can have your own journey, and sometimes it will somewhere merge in some cases. But of course, at the same time, AI will be there. For that, you need to reposition your thinking. What AI can do, simply you cannot do that. You have to do something else with the help of AI or without the help of AI, whatever. If you are a creative person, you can do completely be away from digital tools and do your own, pursue your own creative journey also. But if you are in technology, those technology will be part of it.
And so, I think from what I understood, some of what I have learned during my MBA days, some of those skills have really come handy in my career. So, first is very metric dependent. If there is a saying that if we can't measure, we can't manage or progress. So any initiative, any project that you are doing, it's very important that we really understand what is the business metrics that we are moving, how is it eventually leading to somebody, there will be different kinds of answers. We think that this will improve decisions. What then what? Right? It will improve the decision making. What will that, how will that mean? Are we going to improve the marketing budget allocation with that decision? How will that reduce us to cost? So get to the asking to the T on how exactly it is impacting the PNL isn't very exceptional. I have been very curious in terms of understanding how exactly each of these, why am I doing this to relate it back to the PNL. The second part is the problem framing or structuring the problems. And in MBA, we learned these 5 whys, 3 whys, all these things in terms of when the requirements or any project that comes in, there will be a stated problem and there will be a lot of unstated problem. As a leader, the idea is to question the problem itself, right? In terms of understanding what are the unstated problem that has not been there. In most of the cases, people will come you, I want to improve the search conversion or search CTR. It has gone down, or let's say the ads ROAS, the return on ad spend has gone down. We want to improve it. Now, why has it gone down, right? What are the problems? What are the hypotheses? Now, going back to the hypothesis route, let's say ads ROAS has gone down. There is a bunch of hypotheses that quality of selections has gone down. The advertisers are not as good as. There could be that the overall the category mix has changed where exactly we would to put ads. Now, as a leader, it is very important. I felt that I don't believe on what anybody is telling to me and I should start working, but I really go back and question those hypotheses, really understand, try to understand I'm actually attacking the right problem is the second important skill. I think that will, even in AI world, AI will definitely struggle to address. Okay. And finally, the third piece is the storytelling, or which is the all that we do inside our data science using all this complicated modeling. None of the leaders are interested in doing that. They are eventually interested in, and I was talking about, I am going back, checking multiple hypotheses and coming up with what is the real reason. The leaders at a CXO level are only interested one-liner, what is the problem? What are we going to go about doing that? How we are going to do that? How soon we are going to do that, right? Now, and there, in order to come to that crystallized version, there's a lot that we had to go through, and learning that storytelling, building that trust is a very essential skill. You can think about the GPTs of the world are making great progress in making these consulting decks and all of these. I eventually, so far, it has been, I tried multiple times to get my version of story. It was not able to generate. Hopefully, it will make some progress, but so far, this ability has helped not only me, but a lot of people I have seen makes progress in their career. This particular skill has really helped them. Yeah.
Awesome. I think both of them covered whatever I wanted to say. I'll keep it very brief, and I think it mirrors what just was also saying. We can know all the frameworks. everything boils down to only three skills in the end. One is critical thinking. And critical thinking, I'll just give one example. Can you break something down at its absolute fundamentals? And a lot of people think they do, they don't. Like 5 why, if you force yourself, by the time you reach the fifth layer, it will already have generated a lot of clarity. Sometimes you might have to go 50 levels deeper. I like this color. Why? It suits this. Why? If you question, you will it will reveal a lot about it, right? So critical thinking is number one. Number two is decision making. Again, coming back to you can think all you want. Finally, again, you have to pick one and commit, right? Marriage is the same thing, which car to buy is the same thing, what role to do is the same thing. Now, how will I approach this is the same thing, you have to commit. And that is where a lot of people fail. Because it's hard to do. Now, you have to put all of that, hold all of that in your mind, update everything, like Bayesian updating, some new information has come in. How am I changing it? But you have to then have the guts to commit. That is the second skill, and you have to test yourself. Am I able to commit? Right? And especially in today's world, it's getting harder and harder. We're getting pulled away from commitment more and more. And that weakens that muscle. It's a muscle which you have to keep strengthening. And the third is essentially ability to influence, which is what he said, storytelling. It is the hardest. Like you can do the other two, we all think we can, and so on. So there's this very famous saying, right? I was told to write a one-page article in a week. 1 week was too less, so I gave them a 5-page article. So that is the spirit of what it means to communicate well. And at the end, so I was giving in the morning an example, like if I were to present to Satya on week 15, he has time for one sentence for everything that I might have done in like 6 months. What is that sentence? What's the first word? What's the pause? What's the second word? What is the conclusion? To distill everything you've done, first you have to think, then you have to decide, commit to a direction, and then you have to refine relentlessly. So if you think about it, the greatest stand-up comics are so intelligent. The greatest actors are unbelievably intelligent. That runs there because it's so hard to get that part. So it's the third part is again reading the room. All of that comes under ability to influence. If you can't influence your boss, you are not going to get that project. Then you have to understand him fully, right? So it's also about psychology. Here are the 3 skills, how to get them. It's like, again, I come back to what I was talking to Professor Kamaki earlier, like the will to know, the will to think, the will to act, and the will to win. There is nothing else. You have to just have that. So relentless curiosity, being able to sit alone with your thoughts and until you get frustrated, then being able to commit and accept the loss of not committing to every other option. And then being able to do all of this at will even when you don't feel like it. That is about it. That's about the philosophy of how to create sets of what result mean. And that's how I think about things.
I'll add to what you said. So what do you do in the world of AI? How do you make yourself relevant? We speak with a lot of students, and many students think of their careers as forward contracts. And you know what? I am studying PCMB, so I'll be a PCM, so I'll be an engineer. PCMB, so I'll be a doctor. You're studying marketing, so I'll be a marketer. I'll be a marketer for 10 years. So that kind of thinking is a little dangerous in today's world. You have to fill your life with options. Learn prompt engineering. Maybe you will have an option to become an AI engineer. Right? Learn how to make marketing content even if you are in finance. You will have an option to become a marketer if your career takes a sway because of AI. So fill your life with options. Relentless curiosity, like he mentioned. Be curious, try to learn. That's what has helped me. I joined Microsoft in a hardcore technical role. Then I moved to consultancy within Microsoft. Then I moved to sales. Then I moved to Google in sales. Then I moved to tech in Google. Now I'm again in sales. How do you switch between these varied fields? Is through developing those nascent. I learned enough sales to scare a scaler. I learned enough coding, not too much, but enough coding to have respect for the engineers, just to understand their story. And that's how you move from field to field. The rest is just very difficult to influence.
Great, guys. I hope we had an excellent time. I just added up something. So in 2009, I was a PhD student of management, and I got this task of going and teaching production, quality management, and operations management all in one to a batch of National Institute of Design students for a newly curated program called the Strategic Design Management. So the world saw design and management come together. Ahmedabad was the location because it had the National Institute of Design and the IIM Ahmedabad together. And then when first day I was going and I asked them, so what is the sort of key thing that I have to do? They said, no mathematics. Our graduates don't understand mathematics, and you have to teach operations management, quality management, and productions, right? And that's when the world came down. And I think so. This the constant process is you have to keep challenging yourself. The world outside is changing. The box ideas that we have will keep on changing. And I think so, as was said, critical thinking is going to be important. Decision making is going to be important. I think so. The only thing we've learned in life is decision making. Only thing to add from one of my teachers: decision is always in the shadow of the future. Markedly differently that the past may be helpful. He said that decision making should always be shadow of the future because you are taking decision for future. And I think so with that, staying relevance, I think so is what is coming back. And I take it as a big takeaway. And I want a big round of applause for the guest. It was for
we would like to conclude AVINYA 2.0 team from idea to impact, designing, building, and scaling sustainable products in the age of AI. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to everybody who made this event a success. We extend a heartfelt gratitude to Professor Neeraj Trivedi, our esteemed director, for his constant guidance and support. Dean Development Canal, Professor Kunal Ganguly, for enabling platform and encouraging meaningful discussions here. Special thanks for our executive DIC committee. Without their support, this event would not have been possible, especially to Professor Gargi Rawat, Professor Vaibhav Maurya, Professor Ratikant, and Sanjay Sir here. Your very valuable, your insights and your presence has lit up this event for us. Our sincere thanks to Gurukul Foundation and Gyanarthi College for their invaluable participation throughout this conclave. Today's fishbowl actually reminded us that AI is not a single breakthrough, but a chain of choices and decisions where accountability, governance, and human-centric design are an important part as well as innovation. AI can transform decisions, but responsibility is always human. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my team, both DIC senior members and junior members, without whose dedication and hard work this event would not have been a success. Thank you everybody for being a part of this journey. Thank you, ma'am. Could you please come out with what activity?
If we can note from each one's presentation. So yours and get them both. Then we just make those images below. That's why I put it down. Nice to have the actually.
From Delhi lecture.
But we would like to felicitate Anshuman Mansingh. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Parth Sangani. Now I would like to invite Professor Bhamaria sir to present the issue. So our next panelist, sir, we can speak. So now I'd like to invite Professor Saptarshi. Everyone please gather around the group for me. Move to the center, everyone.
Move this side for a second.
Everybody.